and Provo law enforcement, as well as BYU police and their facilities management to coordinate safety and emergency response throughout the entire Freedom Festival.
Last year, a faulty firework sent projectiles into the 4th of July crowd, injuring 26 people. This might seem like a no-brainer, but the post office says please stop mailing fireworks. Fireworks of all kind are considered hazardous materials and are banned from being sent by both ground and air through the Postal Service. They say even small items can cause serious injuries. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Any moment now, President Trump will be on a tour at the latest immigration detention center his administration is setting up. This one is in the Florida Everglades called Alligator Alcatraz.
President Trump Tuesday visiting the remote airfield in the Everglades that his administration is turning into a new migrant detention facility. Operations there start today, and the facility will eventually hold up to 5,000 people. Asked if the location, dubbed Alligator Alcatraz by the administration, was chosen specifically because of the conditions, that if detainees escape, they could get eaten by an alligator or a snake, the president told reporters, yes.
Snakes are fast, but alligators are, we're going to teach them how to run away from an alligator, okay? If they escape prison.
Karen Travers, ABC News, the White House.
Your money at this moment, the Dow up 266 points to 44,360. Coming up, almost 100 today. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time 9:01.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
Transform your old, outdated kitchen with Half Price Granite. For a limited time, Half Price Granite is offering special pricing for a summer sale, starting at $20 per square foot installed. That's lower than most big box stores. These prices are some of the lowest around. Granite, quartz, marble, and quartzite, all starting at $20 per square foot installed. Call 801-486-1700 or visit halfpricegranite.com. Half Price Granite, affordable luxury.
My perfect day has sand, salt water, and friends. But my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis can take me out of the moment. Now I'm all in with clearer skin thanks to Skyrizi. Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. With Skyrizi, most people saw 90% clearer skin, and many were even 100% plaque-free at 4 months. Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions, increased infections, or lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor about any flu-like symptoms or vaccines.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Ask your doctor about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis. Visit Skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
Greg Carlisle here for Jordan Camper, your truck accessory headquarters at 7000 South State in Midville. Why do I mention my name? For years, I've been the radio voice for Jordan Camper commercials, but I wanted to speak to you as a satisfied customer this time. I love the Line-X protective coating they sprayed on my front and back bumpers of my 2005 Mustang over 5 years ago, and it still looks new. Line-X is famous for durable truck bed coatings with a lifetime warranty. Jordan Camper is family-owned for 5 generations, and their team has over a combined 175 years in team experience installing truck accessories. I've seen them complete work for hundreds of satisfied customers over the years. These guys are good. Jordan Camper specializes in truck top shells and folding, retractable, and one-piece truck bed covers, and a wide range of accessories from fender flares, floor mats to towing products. Check out their great showroom at 7000 South State in Midvale. More information at jordancamper.com.
Nothing says summer like double rewards on your Mountain America Rewards credit card. Get 2 times the points on everything from gas and groceries to travel and home projects. Now through July 31st, 2025. Oh, wow. It's the perfect way to stretch your dollar and make summer doubly rewarding. Apply for your Mountain America Rewards credit card at macu.com/double. Loans on approved credit. Offer can change or be withdrawn at any time. Limited time offer. Terms and conditions apply.
Time for a check of traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here's Heather Kelly.
We've got some slowdowns southbound I-15 in Utah County between American Fork down to about 1600 North in Linden. No crashes there, just people struggling to merge in together safely. And then northbound I-15, the delays are easing up considerably. You're still slightly under the speed limit in spots as you make your way from Point of the Mountain into downtown Salt Lake. And the right lane leading on eastbound I-80 between Kimball Junction and US 40 is very slow. Use Superior Water and Air for all your HVAC and water treatment needs. Call 974-9090 or visit superiorwaterandair.com. Superior Water and Air, we got this. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather today will be just shy of 100 degrees. There'll be some wind gusts to help cool down. Tomorrow, much of the same. Right now, it's 84 degrees and partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
We're fast approaching, Holly, Donald Trump's deadline for his sweeping domestic policy bill, also known as the One Big Beautiful Bill. He gave the Senate until July 4th to get their part of it done and get it back to the House with the amendments. He's sort of hinted that he may delay that deadline a little bit, but he may not need to. We talked yesterday about the fact that Mike Lee had pulled his public land sale out of the bill.
That's right.
We're going to talk today about this artificial intelligence ban, which has been seemingly removed. We started yesterday with this Vote-A-Rama, and I think it started yesterday at 9:30 Eastern time. It's still going. The Senate pulled an all-nighter, but Senate Majority Leader John Thune said at 4:30 this morning, we're close, and we're watching all of these televisions right now. It does seem like they're getting quite close. We'll talk about the Vote-A-Rama and what that means. But let's back up a little bit and talk about this artificial intelligence ban and what happened to that provision of the bill.
Yeah, so this ban, we've had an opportunity to talk about it several times, but this would have prohibited states from regulating artificial intelligence for a decade. And Representative Doug Fiafia, who has been in the tech industry, is also been really instrumental, I think, in bringing attention to what Utah specifically has been doing and how states can handle this. And he joins us on the line right now. Thanks for joining us, Representative Fiafia.
Thanks, Holly. Thanks, Greg. It's great to be back.
You've got to be feeling pretty good about the fact that, A, Utah's well ahead of the curve and have already enacted legislation that would do exactly what the Senate is wrestling with, and that it seems like, Representative Fiafia, that the Senate has now taken that out of the big, beautiful bill.
Yes, this was a major win for Utah, for states, and at the end of the day, for consumers. As Holly mentioned, this AI moratorium would have federally preempted state and local governments from enacting any AI laws for up to 10 years. And as quickly as AI is advancing, states need flexibility to respond to real-life impacts in their communities. And Utah, as you said, has been a national leader on tech issues. And this moratorium would have handcuffed our ability to regulate in ways that reflect our Utah values and priorities. And so I'm just incredibly happy and proud that our senators stepped up when it mattered and supported us on this initiative. I don't know that we've ever been as united as a state on an issue. We had support from the governor, from the AG who signed a letter, the Senate President and Speaker of the House. We had a large majority of legislators sign on to a letter. We were sending a clear message as Utah leadership that we are not okay with this, and we wanted it out. And it was nice to see our senators and other senators listen.
So one of the things I've been following, Representative Fiafia, is your social media accounts, and you've been posting, and I watched yesterday as you posted from the gym, I think, talking about updates to what this might look like. And it looked like maybe they were going to try to take it down to 5 years, and now it's completely stripped out. So that was good news early this morning.
Yeah, there was a compromise. Senator Blackburn was negotiating with Senator Cruz on, hey, how do we make this fit so that there is some type of moratorium. It got reduced to 5 years and added out some carve-outs. But at the end of the day, the language was so vague that it would actually hurt some of the laws that they were trying to protect. And it put Utah in an interesting position because we have laws already in place, and if we were to enforce it, it would not only claw back potential funding in the future, which is this infrastructure funding, but also they would have the potential of clawing back additional funding that has already been allocated. And so it put Utah in just this weird place where we could have been sued by companies, and then also looking at future funding for infrastructure, which is important to the state. And so I'm glad that Senator Blackburn, even during her speech as she stood up, she said, this has shown that we are not equipped to legislate and regulate against, tech issues like this. And it just shows that states are the right place to be nimble and to adjust to the ever-fasting and moving changes with technology and AI.
And Representative Fiafia, can you just tell our listeners, give them just a reset on what we are doing in this state and what our congressional representatives have done, our at the House and Senate in Utah have already done with respect to artificial intelligence?
Sure. So the first thing that we did is we instilled or put in place a policy office of AI. And so what that does is it brings in actual internal resources, technologists and experts to have input on AI. And so it's not us as legislators who have full-time jobs on the side who are coming up with these ideas. We actually have internal staff that are doing the research and keeping their ear to the ground what's happening and helping us decide what is the best move for Utah. The next thing is we created this sandbox so that companies and people who are wanting to learn more about AI can do so and test out emerging technologies in a safe place where it looks at regulation and, bringing that technology and pushing it to the cutting edge. And that keeps Utah safe. It allows businesses to test out what's new and improved. And then finally, as we see, companies take AI and use it in their company, in their products and services, we as a legislature are making sure that it doesn't cross the line of data privacy or any other issues. We're always looking to see how this affects kids, how this affects Utahns. And we've put into place a couple of small pieces of legislation to, at the end of the day, protect consumers and Utahns.
So let me ask you this one question. Is there anything that you or anybody else in the Utah legislature is working on for the next legislative session regarding AI, especially now that we've got the federal thing resolved?
Yeah, I think there's a few pieces that we're already looking at. I know we've done some work on deep fakes already. We're looking at how to go after predators who've used AI and other messages to go after our kids. There's quite a few kind of areas that we're focused on, mostly around protecting our kids and keeping them protected from algorithms that AI is being used to exploit them. And then looking at ways that people can manipulate data or also images and likeness. So there's quite a bit there. I know we're still on the early time of drafting this legislation, and so it'll be interesting now that this moratorium is out, what actually comes of it and what that legislation ends up looking like.
That was Representative Doug Fiafia, who joined us this morning from the Utah State House and talked about the fact that we've already got good legislation in place, Holly, that we don't need the federal legislation. We've only got a little bit left here. But were you surprised that the Senate pulled that from the bill? Because we weren't even talking about that yesterday, I think.
I think I was not that surprised because we have been seeing a lot of people really push back on this, including Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, who said if she had known it was in the bill when she voted for it, she wouldn't have voted for it.
Yeah, so that's out, and it looks like the Senate's getting ever closer to voting on this, maybe during our show today. When we come back after the break, the Vote-A-Rama went all night and into this morning, raising questions about the wisdom of pulling all-nighters when trying to get important work done. Sleep deprivation has a lot of negative impacts. We'll talk about that after the break.
Hi, I'm Dr. Matthew Wappett, Executive Director of the Institute for Disability Research Policy and Practice, or the IDRPP, at Utah State University. Did you know that 1 in 4 Utahns have a disability? Think about that. Your neighbor, your colleagues, your family. At some point, disability affects everyone. The USU IDRPP is on the front lines, driving change right here in Utah and across the nation for people with disabilities. For over 50 years, IDRPP has been Utah's University Center for Excellence in Developmental Disabilities, generating vital research that shapes effective policies and delivers real-world solutions. From groundbreaking research to evidence-based training, the IDRPP empowers individuals with disabilities, their families, and the professionals who support them. We're making our communities more accessible and welcoming for everyone. Find out more at idrpp.usu.edu.
1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today. 1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Donate your car today at carsforkids.org. That's cars with a K. Your car, running or not, can be picked up as soon as the next day. You'll get a maximum tax deduction and a vacation voucher.
1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Now accepting donations of land, homes, buildings, or any kind of real estate.
When is the optimal time to file for Social Security? That could help you get every penny that is rightfully yours. Get the answer in a free report, Your Guide to Filing for Social Security in 2025 and Beyond. It's from Boss Retirement Solutions, who's helped tens of thousands of families get the most out of their benefits. If you've saved more than $200,000 and have not filed for Social Security, get your free report now by calling 801-251-1046. Timing, taxes, spousal benefits. This free report details the most critical things you must consider that could help you get the most income from your Social Security benefits today. Get this free report right now by calling 801-251-1046. That number again, 801-251-1046.
Boss Retirement Solutions is not affiliated with the Social Security Administration.
Held over due to popular demand. This is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates, this weekend only. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Friday, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
I'm Andrew Saul, Commissioner of Social Security. I'm here to warn you about telephone scammers pretending to be government employees. Some of these scammers may say threatening things like you will be arrested if you don't make payments or provide personal information. Do not fall for these tricks. These calls are not from us. Real Social Security employees will never threaten you for information or money. If you receive a call like this, hang up. Never give the caller your personal information, like your Social Security number or bank account, or send money in any form, cash, gift cards, wire transfers, or prepaid debit cards. Report the call to our law enforcement arm, the Office of the Inspector General at oig.ssa.gov. Share this information with your friends and family.
Inside Sources.
I think anybody who's attended college or trade school or something like that realize that as you get down to finals week, you pull what you call all-nighters, and I used to do that all the time, Holly. You can learn a whole semester of calculus in 12 hours.
That's not true.
Just right, you think you can, just enough that you can get through the test.
Yeah.
But when you're 20, 25, you can do an all-nighter. But our Senate right now started this Votorama yesterday, and it started at 9:30 Eastern time, so 7:30 our time. It's still going.
I think they took a little break, but it was just a little bit of nap time. But they went more than 24 hours.
Yeah, and at 4:30 Eastern time this morning, so 2:30 our time, Senate Majority Leader John Thune said, "Hey, we're getting very close," and it looks like they're still getting very close. Hopefully, they've taken some breaks. You see some of them wearing blankets and they're sort of jammies and hoodies and whatnot. I mean, I guess you've got to get comfortable. It went all night. It raised some questions, though, about the wisdom of pulling all-nighters. And sleep deprivation, obviously, as you know, has a lot of negative impacts, including, importantly, your mental processing times are different. And they're doing something, probably one of the most important things that's going on right now.
Yeah.
Our own Blake Moore was caught sleeping on camera, along with a lot of others, in a recent all-nighter.
Everybody dozed off in a 17-hour meeting before. I mean, you go to church for 1 hour and you doze off. So, like, the fact that my wife was already the first one to sort of like give me a hard time about it, I don't take myself too seriously. And you could see when my colleague woke me up, when she nudged me, I like immediately started laughing because I go, oh no, there's going to be a camera somewhere. All my other colleagues were in the back room dozing off. They just were smart enough not to do it on camera.
Of course, that was a different scenario, but Blake Moore had a sense of humor about it, and we've all done that. We've all done that. I mean, I'd be lying if I said I've never fallen asleep during some court proceeding, but it wasn't my own proceeding. Sometimes you're waiting for somebody to get through with their case, and you're sitting there watching them going, oh, boy, I can't stay awake.
I mean, one of the things about sleep deprivation, we've mentioned slower mental processing times, but I, as a midwife, did a lot of all-nighters, and that was one of the reasons I retired, is because it got harder and harder as I got older. And I would say I am probably younger at age 60 than the average age of our U.S. senators right now. So it's harder to stay awake all night, right? It's harder to get, I think, your job done. And we know that drowsy driving can be as bad as drunk driving. If you're awake for 17 to 18 hours, it can compare to a blood alcohol concentration of 0.05, but 24 hours is 0.1, double the legal limit, right?
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Right, and that's DUI in Utah. Actually, 05 is now, so that's the same as driving under the influence, or being under the influence of alcohol.
Right, just being sleepy.
For our driving laws. No surprise there. I mean, and you're right about another thing, Holly, and that is that it's easier to pull an all-nighter when you're 20 than when you're 60.
Yeah, you think.
You feel like you're doing something differently. And there's only so much that, coffee or running around the block once or twice will do, because your brain only reacts to those in that it stays awake. It doesn't stay alert and thinking appropriately. And, and of course, when you're doing something like driving a car, it's awful. But when you're up on the Senate floor, it's equally awful, not dangerous. But I mean, this is probably the most important thing happening in our country today.
Right. We're talking about a lot of money and a lot of cuts to a lot of people.
What I don't understand is this, and we did this Votorama, but the July 4th deadline is a deadline, but it's kind of arbitrary.
It is very arbitrary.
And even Trump today has said he would consider, I think the word he used, relaxing that. So, I mean, let's just do it right. And I didn't understand the Votorama yesterday. We talked about it a little bit.
Yeah.
But the Democrats tied it up for hours and hours while they were making some procedural motions and some amendments and this and that. And so the whole Votorama didn't start until much later.
The actual voting on amendments and stuff, later in the day, and they just kept going and they went all night. So the bill we just talked about with Representative Fiafia was actually passed around that 2 a.m. Utah time, so around 4 o'clock in the morning is when they actually passed the amendment to strip that out of the One Big Beautiful Bill. And interesting, on the Senate side, they actually gave it that name. It's now the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, and that is the official name of this bill.
Yeah, there's been some other changes. I remember seeing something about Medicaid and what we were doing with that, because that seems to be one of the hard, fast parts of the bill that a lot of our senators and congressional representatives are going, wait a minute, I can't buy off on that, where the bill had some cuts to Medicaid, and a lot of the public in these public hearings that we've seen have told their leaders, don't do that. So that's one that's probably keeping some people up late too.
Well, and not only did they say don't do that with the cuts that came over from the House side, but the Senate increased those cuts almost $400 billion more, which puts it close to $1 trillion for Medicaid cuts.
Yeah, I think that the whole, $3 trillion addition to the deficit has got to be hard for the Republicans when this bill passes, and it clearly will. Well, not clearly, but it probably will in some form.
They'll get it to some point.
They'll get it
pass
done,
it,
but they've still got to go back to their constituents and say, "Look what we just did." And I mean, we're a ways away from midterm elections, but I mean,
closer than you would think.
Yeah.
So Elon Musk has weighed in on this actually on the midterm elections. He came out really hard against President Trump on the One Big Beautiful Bill. He went quiet for a little while. Now he's back. Opining on X, but one of the things he said is that he will primary every single Republican who votes for this bill, and he has a lot of money he can dump into those races.
Yeah. I was trying to find, there were a couple of other changes that they'd made last night in addition to the AI. I just thought there was one about Medicaid. We'll have Cami Mondo later with us to talk about that. But they're obviously doing some things. They're not just staying up and arguing, but they're making some tweaks and some changes. And you said it earlier, this is just the Senate version of what the House gave them.
Right.
It's going to go back to the House, and we've heard some members of the House telling us, "Hey, it was 1,000."
When you make these changes, so we've talked about the SALT before, which is the state taxes, state and local taxes. And it was really tightly negotiated in the House. And again, remember, it only passed the House by one vote. Excuse me, but in the Senate, one of the things I read about last night's Vote-A-Rama, and I'd have to double check, but was that they increased the SALT deduction, which is something that there are people from red states who are like, absolutely not. We're not going to support that.
That's what it was. That's what I was thinking of, and I couldn't remember what it was called. But yeah, they dealt with that. I guess they did take a little bit of a break last night. Excuse me, between it wasn't just 24 straight hours, but I'm sure a lot of them were sleeping right there on the floor.
I think they were. And, again, this is an issue, I think, of how can you pay attention enough to vote on important policy issues when you're totally sleep deprived? I mean, we know besides the driving drunk component, right, of driving drowsy, but you have a lack of alertness. You have memory problems. You have speech problems. You're slower to respond. This is all information from the Cleveland Clinic about missing as little as 1.5 hours of sleep, right? Blurred vision, maybe an inability to participate in normal activities, and moodiness and agitation.
We've been here for a couple of hours, Holly, and we keep seeing these breaking news. Senate is about to vote
voting.
We're getting really close. And Senate Majority Leader John Thune said, yeah, we're really close. 4:30 Eastern time this morning. So that was 7 hours ago they were close. I guess they're really close now. My guess is they're going to vote sometime today and move it one way or the other down the hill. But we've had, I think, 2 senators who have said they're not going to support the bill in its current form. Mm-hmm. We just saw our Vice President, J.D. Vance, showing up at the floor, presuming
he can be a tiebreaker.
He might
vote.
be the tiebreaker. It's that close, so he's got to be there. But it's just a razor thin majority, and if they lose any more, and there's another half dozen senators who are saying, I don't know about this. We may have to make some changes. I don't know if it's going to get done today.
We'll see. One of the senators who's opposing it is Rand Paul of Kentucky. He said it's the provision raising the debt ceiling by $5 trillion. He's like, nope, I'm a nope. And Tom Tillis, we know, is a hard no.
Yeah, and he's one of the 2 I think that are absolutely out. We'll see where that goes. Was it yesterday or the day before we had. Yesterday was Monday.
Yesterday.
So when did we have the Attorney General in? Maybe it was last week.
Last week. Yeah, that's right. Last week.
And he was talking about this lawsuit against Snapchat.
Yep.
Yeah.
Snap is the parent company.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, they filed the lawsuit. It's against Snapchat. We're going to talk with Derek Brown again about why that bill matters and what Utah's doing after the break.
9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top local story this hour. New housing units have declined recently following the spike we had in previous years. Kem C. Gardner Policy Institute senior policy analyst Eric Albers says we gained about 10,000 fewer new housing units in 2024 than we did in 2022. That being said, Salt Lake and Utah counties still show the most growth.
Especially in southern Salt Lake County, there's still a lot of open land for development in Utah County as well. So I expect we'll continue to see that.
Interest rates are one of the biggest reasons why we aren't building as much now. Salt Lake County led the state, adding almost 10,000 units. Utah County added almost 6,000 units, but there are a lot more people per household in Utah County. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Republican Senator John Cornyn of Texas comes up for re-election in 2026 and already faces a growing slate of challengers from inside and from outside his party. ABC's Jim Ryan says another hat went into the ring this morning.
Former Democratic Congressman Colin Allred has set his sights on Texas senior Senator John Cornyn. Far from shying away from his loss to junior Senator Ted Cruz last year, Allred is casting himself as an underdog everyman.
Folks who play by the rules and keep the faith just can't seem to get ahead. But the folks who cut corners and cut deals, well, they're doing just fine.
Cornyn faces a serious primary challenge from Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, with both Republicans fighting for the endorsement of President Trump. Jim Ryan, ABC News, Dallas.
Your money at this moment, the Dow up a full percent, 442 points to 44,543. Coming up, it's going to be a hot one today and really all the way up to the 4th of July. We'll check weather next. KSL News Time, 9:31.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Staples presents That Was Easy.
So I was taking my side hustle full-time.
Bold move, my friend.
And I needed to find everything in one stop.
Like finding Bigfoot riding a unicorn.
Yes, so I hit the Staples Easy button. Staples had everything for a new office and print services for signs and brochures. Plus, Cindy, the Staples associate, helped me find the best tech for me.
Wait, no drama?
No, Staples made it easy.
For the products, services, and experts your business needs, Staples.
That was easy.
In-store, online, and on the app.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. No, we're not one of the big guys. Truth is, we don't want to be. If you're over 50, Big Wireless probably has you paying for more data than you might need. You could be throwing away thousands over a lifetime. We're not here to be the biggest. We're here to bring you something we believe is better. Our plans start at just $20. You'll get the same fast nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill.
Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com/facts. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional facts.
Staples presents That Was Easy.
So I was taking my side hustle full-time.
Bold move, my friend.
And I needed to find everything in one stop.
Like finding Bigfoot riding a unicorn.
Yes, so I hit the Staples Easy button. Staples had everything for a new office and print services for signs and brochures. Plus, Cindy, the Staples associate, helped me find the best tech for me.
Wait, no drama?
No, Staples made it easy.
For the products, services, and experts your business needs, Staples.
That was easy.
In-store, online, and on the app.
Lowe's knows July 4th savings are worth celebrating. Right now, get up to 40% off select major appliances and get an additional 10% off 2 or more select major appliances. Plus, get 3 Scott's Naturescapes 1.5 cubic foot mulch bags for just $10. These deals are coming in hot. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 7/9. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details. Excludes Alaska and Hawaii.
At Fisher Investments, we may seem like other money managers, but we're different.
What makes you so different than the rest of us?
We ensure clients receive unparalleled service at every step of the relationship.
Tell me more.
Our investment counselors focus on service over sales, prioritizing clients' needs.
How do you make money?
We don't sell any commission-based products. We have a simple management fee based on the value of our client's portfolio. So we do better when our clients do better.
What about client portfolios?
We get to know each client, their finances, family, health, lifestyle, and more, and then we tailor a portfolio based on their specific goals and needs.
Your clients really come first then, huh?
Yes, we make them a top priority. Our goal is helping them achieve a comfortable retirement.
Wow, maybe we are different.
At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here's Heather Kelly.
Our slowest traffic is now in Summit County. This is eastbound I-80. It's only in the right lane between Kimball Junction and the US 40 turnoff. That's pretty typical every day. You do have a smidgen of slowing northbound I-15 in Provo. We've had a crash right after the on-ramp from Center Street. It's over on the right shoulder, but there's a lot of flashing lights there, so occasionally people slow down as they pass by. Otherwise, you've got a good drive everywhere else across the Wasatch Front. Are you a medical practice owner? Join the Hamlin Business Institute's Powerful Class, August 1st in Salt Lake City. Boost profits, reduce stress, and grow your business. Register by July 20th for 40% off. Use code BUSINESS. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather today, it'll be just shy of 100 degrees. Maybe we'll top the triple-digit mark. There'll be some wind gusts, hopefully, to help cool down. Tomorrow, much of the same. Right now, it is sunny and 88 degrees in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We are Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
You know, a year ago, Holly, it was this is Inside Sources with Greg Skordas and Derek Brown, and we co-hosted a lot of shows together.
We had a lot of fun.
And then all of a sudden he said, "Well, I think I'm going to run for Attorney General." They're like, "Well, we might not have you hosting any shows for a while."
Literally that day.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I got a call and they said, about that hosting a radio show, that ends.
Yeah. So we are joined today by Hannah Syriac, who you stole away from us too a while ago.
I did. Hannah is my director of communications, and she is fantastic. And my biggest concern was that the Deseret News and KSL would be perpetually angry at me for stealing someone so good.
Well, thanks for bringing her. Hannah, how do you like it over there? That's a complete change of pace for you, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think I work for the best attorney general in the country, and I am very proud of the work that we're doing to protect children. So for me, it's a win-win.
Yeah. You are working for the best attorney general in the country.
I did not pay her to say that.
No.
Yes,
I guess technically I did. Yes.
I'll stipulate to that. He's as good as they come.
Oh, that's funny. So actually, we're here to talk about a topic that's not very funny, and that is Snapchat. And yesterday, we received notice, thanks, Hannah, that you and the Department of Commerce have sued Snap, which is the parent company, I think, of Snapchat.
That's correct.
And tell us a little bit about that lawsuit and why this one is so important.
Well, one of the things we've said all along from day one is that if there is a priority we have, it's protecting children. And there have been a number of lawsuits and a lot of actions taken on different angles. But the reality is, you go where the kids are.
Yeah.
And I speak with students all the time. As I mentioned, I spoke with a big group, just impromptu group from Mountain Heights Academy up at the Rotunda a couple of weeks ago. And I was talking about social media. And I always ask them, how many of you are on social media? Most of the hands go up. I say, how many of you have a Facebook account? No hands go up.
I know,
obviously.
it's like grandma thing.
It is kind of, How many of you have, Instagram? A lot of hands go up. How many of you are on Snapchat? Almost every hand goes up.
Wow.
So the reality is that's where the kids are, and there's a lot of problems, and we're seeing, from a law enforcement standpoint, problems with sextortion, with pushing of drugs. I mean, we've seen connections with illegal THC cartridges being pushed on Snapchat.
Wow.
And connections with that and almost every high school in the Salt Lake Valley. I mean, so we know as parents and as the Attorney General, I know where the kids are. I know where the problems are. We're targeting that. But let me just add that drug dealers and predators, they know it as well.
I saw a headline, and I ended up using it in my Utah Policy newsletter this morning, calling it a predator's playground. I'm wondering, before you get into some of those less pleasant details, could you or one of your team just explain what Snapchat is for those of us who don't use Snapchat?
Well, how about Hannah?
How about the youngest person in the room?
Exactly. That's how it goes.
Pick on Hannah.
Yeah, so Snapchat is an app where you can send photos or videos or messages that are set to disappear. So you can change the setting. It's either 1 to 10 seconds, or you could set it so that they never disappear. But that ephemeral content, that disappearing content is really the key feature of Snapchat. There's other features on it like Snap Map where you can see where your friends are, or even sometimes strangers if you add them on Snapchat and they have that setting on.
And that's one of the things that makes Snap so much more problematic is it's one thing. I mean, I've got accounts on Facebook and Instagram and that sort of thing. But one of the features with Snap is that you can not only see what other people are saying and doing, you can see where they are at any given moment.
Wow.
And so it's one thing for, friends to see each other, but when a predator is part of that network and they can see where all the kids are at any given moment, this is concerning.
Yeah, that's frightening to me as a parent.
Hannah, let me ask you a question. When anytime you get involved in a lawsuit like this for the state's perspective against a social media platform, there's reaction from people who are using those platforms. What has been the reaction so far in the state, if you're aware, not just from users but from the public in general? I would think a lot of people, especially adults, especially parents, would say, "You go." Right? That's a great thing. But what are you hearing so far?
There are two things that I've been hearing. I've heard parents say, like you said, you go. I've heard parents say that they had no idea that these sorts of things were happening on Snapchat, that they thought it was more innocuous than that. And so I've heard parents say that they're really excited to hear that the Utah Attorney General is taking this seriously. And I've also heard my friends say, who are in their mid-20s say, I kind of knew this was happening on Snapchat, but I forgot about it because I haven't been using it since I was in middle school. And to me, that's a key part of this too, right? This is where the kids are, like the AG said. This is where we're seeing middle schoolers spend a lot of their time.
And I think we see from a trending standpoint, I think kids tend to age out of Snap. I mean, they'll be in it during middle school, high school, but you don't see a lot of college students as much on Snapchat. So they do age out. So again, this is us going right where the kids are and focusing on that and the addictive nature of it. I mean, we know that there's an addictive nature to social media. How many of us have been, caught ourselves doom scrolling at midnight? I mean, I think that's built into the system. Snap has a feature called Snap Streak, where if you log in on a regular basis, you get rewarded, and then kids get this anxiety when they don't log in. In fact, I talked to a mom a few weeks ago who was sending her daughter to a week-long summer camp, and phones weren't allowed, and she was begging her mom to log into Snapchat to maintain her streak while she was gone because she did not want to lose that streak. I mean, that's the kind of addictive nature that some of these apps have.
Yeah, and I think I have a daughter actually that's 25. She recently just deleted Snapchat because she aged out of it, I think. But she had streaks going well over 1,000 days, right? That's multiple years where she just hadn't missed.
Well, and think that the anxiety level also ratchets up proportionate when your streak gets longer and longer and longer.
Right, if you miss one day, right? I have a quick question about AI something. And I don't understand that part of the lawsuit. So there's a component of Snapchat that has, is it an AI friend or it's AI? What is, so explain that.
It's called My AI. And what it's the utilization of AI, and Snap has just jumped into this. And the problem is that there's no real control on what this does. And so we've seen, I mean, it was a Washington Post, right, Hannah? It was a Washington Post study that showed examples where someone who was 15, a kid that was 15, was told and taught how to hide drugs from parents.
Wow. Because of this AI friend.
Yes, and one that talked about a 13-year-old and encouraged her to do how to set the mood for an encounter with someone who was an adult. I mean, those are the kinds of things that are uncontrolled. And I mean, we need guardrails when it comes to AI, and those are the kinds of problems that we're seeing. And so our lawsuit is basically saying to Snap, there's a lot that you need to do to protect our kids, and it's an effort to bring them to the table and make sure they do that.
We've got about 30 seconds left, and I did read the lawsuit. There were a lot of studies, a lot of really good foundational issues brought up in the lawsuit as to why this is brought. But what does a win look like in a lawsuit like this? Where would you like us to be if we're talking to you a year from now and say, how did that Snap lawsuit work out? What would be your best answer?
I mean, ideally bringing Snap and others to the table to modify their platforms to protect kids against sexual predators, drug dealers, and do things they don't do right now, like verify age.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks for joining us, and thanks for being here in person. Hannah, good to see you again.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
When
we appreciate
come
it.
back on Inside Sources, there are a couple of local crime stories we want to talk about. One, a defendant was sentenced to 15 years after the crime, and in another, a novel theory of murder was used. Stay with us.
What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and if you have a drain that's clogged or backed up, after you've tried the plungers and products, the next step usually involves some kind of drain snake or cabling equipment. You see, sometimes the blockage is far enough down the line that you need special equipment that most homeowners just don't have. That's where the Drains Department at Any Hour Services can help. A drain snake can clear most blockages and get the water flowing again, and clearing blocked drains is what our Drains Department does day in and day out. So if you're a homeowner with a drain line that's clogged or backed up and you'd like one of our drain technicians to come and snake the line for you, it's only $29. Yep, you heard that right. Any Hour Services will snake any drain line with normal access for only $29. Sinks, showers, tubs, toilets, floor drains, laundry drains, even that sewer main line that connects to the city. We'll snake any line for just $29. For help with your drain issues, call Any Hour Services at 801-443-7700. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
At KSL News Radio, we have a 30-year legacy of honoring Utah teachers, but we can't do it without your help. Please tell us about an important teacher in your life on the KSL Teacher Tribute Wall, presented by Cypress Credit Union. Each month, one lucky teacher wins a $500 gift card from Cypress Credit Union, a $250 gift card to Harmon's, plus season tickets to Hale Center Theater. Say thanks to your teacher today at kslnewsradio.com/teacher from Cypress Credit Union and KSL News Radio.
I am down 50 pounds in 11 weeks, and this program works. The pounds melt off. It's amazing.
I let go of 50 pounds. It felt unreal. I was so proud of myself.
Get in the best shape of your life with Soda Weight Loss.
Just 3 weeks in, and pounds are dropping off very quickly. I am down 26 pounds in 3 weeks.
Summer is right around the corner.
Your summer body starts right here because Soda's summer savings are on.
Every single day, Soda Weight Loss is helping people let go of the weight without drugs, without hunger, and the weight stays off.
I tried other things, came to Soda, just amazing.
I started on Soda 8 months ago, and I have released 80 pounds now.
Summer savings, stunning results, only at Soda Weight Loss. Get started now at sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com.
Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
I'm back to doing what I love and more, thanks to the Good Feet store.
Does your job require you to be on your feet all day? Teachers, postal carriers, salespeople, and restaurant staff. Many of us need our feet to get us through the day. Hi, this is Mike with the Good Feet store, and I'd like you to hear from Donna. She's a nurse and a real customer of the Good Feet store who wanted to share her story.
Oh, I have to tell you, I have struggled with pain in my feet. I was diagnosed with plantar fasciitis. With the 3-step program, it really fits to your lifestyle. I work in a hospital. I'm a registered nurse, so being on my feet, walking throughout the hospital during the day, I am free from any type of pain. And after working a 12-hour shift, I go home and my feet do not hurt.
Whether you're a nurse or anyone wanting to enjoy work without your feet getting in the way, come see us at the Good Feet store.
Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Schedule your free test walk at goodfeet.com.
Hi, this is Jason.
And Kathy of Window World.
Mom, it almost happened again.
What almost happened, Jason?
A customer almost didn't choose us because he was shocked our prices were so low.
Oh, no. What did you tell him?
I told him I could charge him more if he wanted me to, or he could spend the savings on something awesome.
Oh, that's amazing. What did he say?
He decided to save thousands of dollars and get a whole house of amazing windows with Window World.
Call 281-8111.
Window World. Simply the best.
And as Doug always said,
that's no baloney.
Hey, summer's here and only getting hotter. Better save now on a new day and night heat pump and air conditioning system.
Keep cool with a new day and night heat pump and air conditioning system surpassing the new federal standards. It's easy, eco-friendly, and affordable. For example, select a low-interest financing plan on approved systems and combine that with tax credits of up to $2,000. Go to dayandnightcomfort.com for a day and night elite dealer near you. The difference is day and night.
The new Inside Sources.
So, Greg, we are very lucky to have KSL's legal expert right here in studio with us, which happens to be you. And there actually were a couple of stories yesterday that I saw and that you pointed out. There were some things that were different about these murder stories. Sad.
We normally don't just talk about murder cases. I mean, we have them all the time here in Utah, but there were two that happened just yesterday that I thought were really interesting, and I just wanted to talk about them a little bit because they help us understand our law and what we do, and they were both cases that were of some interest as anyway. One involved the mother of two children. She was schizophrenic. She killed both of her children. They were both very young. In 2010, the boy was 8 and the girl was 7. She killed her daughter by what the medical examiner called blunt force trauma, which I don't even want to get into. And her son was killed by administering poison. She was sent to the state hospital, Holly, because she was found to be incompetent. And
because of the schizophrenia.
Right, because of her schizophrenia. So in America, and certainly Utah has its own laws with regard to competency, if you can't, comprehend, you have to be able to help your attorney. You have to be able to answer questions. You have to be able to, when your attorney needs information about how do I present a case, and you have to understand what the proceedings are about. So I know people will say, well, you can just pretend like you don't know what you're doing or act like you don't know what's going on. But the doctors decided that she was not competent, and so they sent her to the state hospital. And people think, well, she just gets away with it. First of all, the state hospital is a secure facility, so it's not like she's out walking around, and it's different than the prison. But if you're in there, it doesn't feel entirely different.
Here's another little bit of trivia. When I trained as a nurse, I actually spent time at the state hospital,
there you go.
So
Yes.
have seen the inside. It is very secure, very locked down.
Right.
Yeah.
And I've been there several times visiting individuals. Anyway, what they do, as you well know, because you were there as a healthcare provider, is they help people and try to help them restore their competency because they don't want to house people forever. And so her competency was restored for a period of time. She went back and forth. I think.
Interesting.
The woman from Idaho, whose name now I forgot, Lori Vallow, she had instances of competency in and out, and ultimately she was restored enough to go to trial. This woman was too, not so much to go to trial, but to enter into plea negotiations. So she pled guilty to 2 counts of murder, homicide, regarding her children. The judge yesterday sentenced her to 2 terms of 15 years to life in prison, but the judge ran them concurrently, which means at the same time. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that she's just going to do 15 years. And I would also say this, the judge ordered that the time she has served already
in the state hospital
counts because it was secure time. So, I mean, she's done, the homicides occurred in 2010. She's already 15 years into a 15 to life sentence. Now, that doesn't mean she's eligible. Well, it does mean she's eligible for parole. It doesn't mean she's going to get parole anytime soon.
Right.
Because there's still the idea of threat to the community or threat to herself. She's Korean. She wants to go home. She's like, my sister's there. Can I please just go home? And the board will certainly take a look at that. But now that she's committed to the prison as opposed to the state hospital, and the prison has hospital-like facilities for mentally ill offenders, so she will be in a different sort of setup there. But the guideline range for her is probably, even though it's a 15 to life, 2 15 to lives, is probably somewhere in around 20 to 30 years. The Board of Pardons is going to take a hard look at her. My guess is, based on her schizophrenia, she'll come in under sort of the low end of the guidelines. However, the case was so horrific. Her own children.
Right.
I mean, you're a mother and your grandmother. I mean, you can't, there's nothing you could imagine more than harming your own. And they were fairly brutal murders as well. Her husband testified at the sentencing, or her ex-husband that is, about how horrible it was and what he suffered. And he kind of talked about each of the kids. Like today, he would be a computer scientist. Today, she would be an artist. He talked about where the kids would be. Oh, it was just awful. The other case I wanted to talk about because, again, without getting into the weeds too much. Well, I am going to get in the weeds a little bit. It involves a man who was operating his car in Eagle Mountain.
Right.
He was on meth. He was showing off his car, and he got to 120 miles an hour, and of course lost control of the car.
That's right.
Ran into a park area where there were 2 little kids.
I think they were in a corral, and
that's right.
2 3-year-old boys.
Kids killed them both.
Yep.
So the lawyer in me, the former prosecutor in me, is looking at that and saying, is that a murder? Well, murder usually we think requires an element of intent.
Mhm.
Did you intend to cause the death? And certainly he did not. So then you look at manslaughter. Did you recklessly cause the death? And that seems like straight up, he was reckless. But Utah has another theory of murder that we rarely use, and it says this: if a person is acting under a depraved indifference to human life and cause the death of a person, that's murder.
We just heard that argument, actually.
Right, we did very recently.
With the No Kings rally.
Exactly.
Okay.
Depraved indifference. I prosecuted for 8 years and I've done defense work for 35 years. I've never done a depraved indifference case. And that doesn't mean they don't happen. This one did. The state took a chance. The Utah County Attorney's Office said, no, we think this is a murder. His attorneys said, no, we think it's a manslaughter. The defense attorney wasn't going to get up there and say, this is not a crime.
Right.
This is not a crime at all. But
there was no intent when he got into that car.
There was no intent, and I'm sure that he was repentant. I'm sure he was apologetic. I'm sure they were trying to do whatever they could to help him. But the difference between murder and manslaughter is significant.
Right.
Murder is 15 to life. Manslaughter is 1 to 15.
Wow.
So the Board of Pardons looks at them entirely differently.
Yeah.
He was charged with 2 counts. They went to jury trial. State argues depraved indifference. Murder, the defense argues reckless manslaughter, and he's convicted of the murder charge. Now, so for the state to prevail in a case like that, Holly, you would expect that they would have brought in experts to talk about what really 120 miles an hour if you're around kids does and means. It is kind of a depraved.
I don't want to think about it.
Right. It isn't just like, hey, I was playing around and I lost control.
Well, and this was 120 miles an hour in a at least semi-residential area, but Eagle Mountain doesn't have, there's a lot of hills, there's a lot of curves, right? And that's one of the things that happened is he couldn't make a curve.
Right, exactly. And they found meth in his system. Of course, that knocks it off the charts quite a bit, too. He had a prior criminal history. I don't know whether the jury was made aware of that, but he was actually on parole at the time this occurred. So he gets the jury finds him guilty of the same thing the woman pled guilty to, which is 2 counts of murder. 15 to life. The judge issued a slightly different sentence in that the judge ran those consecutively. In other words, one after the other.
Right.
So that would be, in terms of the Board of Pardons, they look at concurrent and consecutive differently. And we have these indeterminate terms in Utah, 1 to 15 or 15 to life, and people are like, what does that mean? It means that the judge says, go to prison.
Right.
You're 15 to life. The judge can't say, like in the federal court, they can say, you're going to do 22 years. You're going to do 187 months.
Interesting. I did not know that.
They say you're going to go to prison for 15 to life. That's all the judge can do on a murder case, or suspended, I guess, but the judge isn't going to put somebody on probation for murder, or 1 to 15. And then the Board of Pardons decide what part of 1 to 15 you serve, or what part of 15 to life you serve. So, and that would include, Holly, believe it or not, that maybe you don't serve even the 15 years. Now, in my experience as a lawyer, I've never seen anybody get out before the 15 years on a murder.
Right.
But the fact that the judge ran them consecutively is a message to the board, not so much that, hey, this is the sentence he should serve, but the judge saying, this one's a little worse than most. Whereas the schizophrenic woman, let's take into account her mental health issues and what she's done for the last 15 years at the state hospital and run those at the same time. In this case, he got consecutive sentences. So without pulling numbers out of the air, I would say that his 2 15 to lives will be significantly more than her 2 15 to lives.
Yeah.
And the board will make that determination.
So how long do you think, what could he expect to typically serve? At least 30 years?
Yes, I think that's safe. That's a good, and not because they're 15 plus 15,
right?
But just because it's murder plus murder, and so he could expect to serve. And he was just he was only 28.
Yeah. He'll spend most or all of his adult life.
Yeah,
in
prison. He's already 28 years old. He could easily spend another 28 to 30 years in prison, and it was for a driving offense. We don't see that very often. It was a very aggressive move by the Utah County Attorney's Office, and I've touted that county attorney numerous times. He's a very good prosecutor and did a good deal. I want to stay on this subject of talking about
murder is such a cheery topic.
My murder half hour here, and I thank you for humoring me today. We're going to go up to Idaho, the Brian Koberger case. We've heard that he is ready to accept a deal but the victims' families aren't particularly happy about that. We'll talk about that after the break.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour: Utah cities are dealing with more wildland-urban interface as they continue to expand.
It's just become something that we have to deal with. It does require some forward thinking and planning to make sure that we're ready for it.
Saratoga Springs Fire and Rescue Chief Jess Campbell says the new developments mean they're having to update their fireworks restrictions map nearly every year. He says aerial fireworks are not allowed in any area that's less than 250 feet from the wildland-urban interface or an undeveloped lot or field. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. President Trump is in Florida right now visiting a new detention center being used for people detained by ICE.
President Trump visiting the remote airfield in the Everglades that his administration is turning into a new migrant detention facility. Operations there start today, and the facility will eventually hold up to 5,000 people. Asked if the location, dubbed Alligator Alcatraz by the administration, was chosen specifically because of the conditions, that if detainees escape, they could get eaten by an alligator or a snake, the president told reporters, yes.
Snakes are fast, but alligators are, but we're going to teach them how to run away from an alligator, okay? If they escape prison.
Karen Travers, ABC News, the White House.
Your money at this moment, the Dow up a full percent, 441 points to 44,536. Coming up, you thought it was hot yesterday. Going to be hot again today and tomorrow. Some scattered thunderstorms, though, may be on the way. KSL Weather's next. News time, 10:01.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Selling or buying a home, you're losing a lot of money if you're not using the Bank Buster loan. This is Rod with the Save Right Realtor team at Realty Path. Nothing compares to the Bank Buster loan. Home sellers, you get a quicker sell and a higher net price. How? The buyer of your home gets a rate as low as 4.75% with a payment that saves them hundreds every month. The ultra-low Bank Buster rate is not a seller concession that comes out of your pocket. It's all thanks to our affiliate lender, Save Right Mortgage, and their Bank Buster loan. Hire the Save Right Realtors when you sell or buy a home, and you automatically get a preferred lender and a Bank Buster loan. Buyers, you can start with a rate in the ones. Don't lose tens of thousands of your hard-earned money. Sell and buy your home with a Bank Buster loan. Call 801-APPROVE or visit SaveRight.com.
$5,000. That's the average amount of money people in the U.S. are now spending on gas in a year. $5,000. That's crazy. If you drive, you have to download Upside, the free app that gives you cash back every time you get gas. That's right. You can earn real cash back with Upside just by buying the gas you're already buying. You can literally start earning cash back today.
I use Upside every time I fill up, and I've already made around $300.
You're putting gas in your car anyway. Why not get real cash back? If you like free money, download Upside.
I'm saving the cash I earn from using Upside to help pay for a vacation later this year.
Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code POWER to get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code POWER for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code POWER for a 25 cents per gallon bonus.
Cactus and Tropicals celebrates 50 years of serving avid gardeners, landscapers, homeowners, and you. Visit Saturday, July 5th at any of their 3 locations. Receive 50% off any single item, along with drawings, unique gifts, and more. Cactus and Tropicals is unlike any other store of its kind, with the largest selection of cacti and water-wise plants. An indoor space loaded with indoor plants, fresh florals, and more, including hundreds of decorative vessels in a variety of colors and shapes. Wander paths packed with uncommon shrubs, flowering containers, native and blooming selections for pots, beds, and more. Surround yourself in a sanctuary of beauty, zen, and expert staff there to help with design and care. At Cactus and Tropicals, you'll find a selection that is unmatched and backed by 50 years of love. 3 locations, newest in Midvale, Draper, and Salt Lake, with a special live broadcast July 5th with the KSL Greenhouse Show, and receive 50% off any single item. CactusandTropicals.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here's Heather Kelly.
We have some unusual slowdowns southbound I-15 leaving the north interchange and heading past Warm Springs Road. Looks like it's debris that is scattered across several lanes of travel, mostly in the left-hand side of the freeway, so that is slowing people down as they go past. Now, once you get past all the debris, speeds improve all the way into Salt Lake City. No delays now northbound I-15 throughout Utah and Salt Lake counties or on the east and west side belt routes. Advanced Window Products, $2,500 off 10 windows or more. AdvancedWindows.com, affordable windows guaranteed. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, we have a heat advisory starting at noon today with the high in Salt Lake City near 99 degrees. There is a slight chance for thunderstorm developing today, and those chances go up tomorrow and Thursday. Right now, we're already at 90 degrees at 10 o'clock in the morning and sunshine skies in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
We have some breaking news. The Senate has passed Trump's mega bill after a 50-50 vote. It was a tie. Of course, our Vice President, J.D. Vance, broke the tie. 3 GOP senators, Rand Paul, Tom Tillis, and Susan Collins, voted with all of the Democrats to bring this to a 50-50 split. But it has passed with the Vice President's breaking the tie. Let's go to CNN for some live coverage.
Even Kamala Harris did as well. Phasing out green energy tax credits, money for the Pentagon, border security, detentions, and deportations, a lot of money there. And it also lifts the debt ceiling. Can we just talk a little bit about, as we look at all of the components to this, the no's weren't that many no's, considering the concerns that we heard from a lot of Republican senators about a lot of what's in this when it comes to the Medicaid reform or cuts, when it comes to the fact that the CBO says it adds like $3 trillion to the deficit. But at the end of the day, unless somebody changes their vote before it's finally gavelled, it was just, as you said, Rand Paul and Tom Tillis, who went out with a blaze of glory. He was so upset about this. He said, I'm not going to run for re-election.
Yeah, and Dana, I just want to interrupt to say they have gavelled this vote now. It happened very quickly, but I want to just point out, as you were saying, you have these 3 Republicans who voted against this bill, and one of them voting against it for very different reasons, right, than the other 2. Senator Tom Tillis, Senator Susan Collins, they had concerns about those Medicaid cuts. And we should note that in the very end of this bill, the negotiations led to a place where Susan Collins nearly doubled that rural hospital fund that she had been fighting for. Still, it was not enough to win her vote. Meanwhile, Senator Rand Paul voted against this bill because there was too much spending, he argued, and the fact that it increased the country's borrowing limit. That was something he did not want to include in this legislation, and he was very clear with leadership from the jump that that was going to be a red line for him. Obviously, they decided that they didn't need his vote, that they could get votes elsewhere, but that is why those 3 members voted against this legislation. We do expect that Senator Susan Collins will issue a more formal statement explaining her vote anytime. We should also note she is now, of those 3, the only Republican that we know of who is seeking re-election in the state of Maine. That obviously could have been Tom Tillis as well, but he announced on Sunday that he was not going to seek re-election after he faced massive backlash from the president when he voted against advancing this piece of legislation.
Really, really interesting. Lauren, thank you so much for being there. Thank you for making clear that this has officially passed. We did miss that quiet gavel by the Vice President, who is the President of the Senate, who made sure that it passed by one vote, thanks to his tie-breaking vote. Let us know if you see and hear anything that is noteworthy as we learn what else happened on the floor. And my panel is back. Jeff Zeleny, I interrupted you as we got the news. The big picture here about the Trump agenda.
Look, it's an extraordinary piece of legislation, some 980 pages in the Senate. We should point out this is not done yet. However, it is getting to that point. There is momentum behind this bill now. President Trump obviously wants it. So, House conservatives now have a decision to make. Are they going to be the fiscal hawks that they've long talked about, or are they going to swallow hard and vote for this bill? My guess is that by the end of the week, there is a bill. Is it going to be a straight line to that point? No, it is not. But we cannot really underestimate how sweeping this legislation is. It reminds me of something as big as the Affordable Care Act that we all covered 15 years ago now. And the political consequences could also be similar. I've spent some time out in the country talking to voters and rural hospital providers and others, and they are really worried still about these Medicaid cuts. And here's just one reason why. It sort of sounds arcane, but someone with Medicaid now who relies on it to take care of a child with disabilities has to now apply, if this passes, twice in a year for eligibility, as opposed to just once. One mother I talked to said she waited on the phone 3 months to get her daughter certified. Not on the phone for that long, but she was on the phone, and it took 3 months to get her certified. So the question is, can these states administer what Congress is about to pass on to them? So the Senate right now is going to basically jam this down the House's throat. We've seen that many times before. But after that, red states and blue states are about to get a huge piece of legislation that they're going to have to deal with. And there are many Republican governors as well who are very concerned about how this will happen.
So let's just stay on the Medicaid portion of this, because when it comes to the policy, but also the politics, as you just described, it's perhaps the most potent part of this very, very, very big bill. Let's listen to what the president himself said when asked about his promise that it's, quote, waste, fraud, and abuse only.
Medicaid is in big trouble with the Democrats.
You promise anyone who loses their health care coverage, that is because of waste, fraud, and abuse.
Waste, fraud, only waste, fraud, and abuse, which is what everybody wants.
And Olivia, the Congressional Budget Office, which I know some conservatives question, dismiss it, but it is the best thing we've got in terms of a real look at the nuts and bolts of what these pieces of legislation will do. That's true for Democratic Congresses and presidents and Republicans. They say that this bill, 11.8 million people will lose health insurance by 2034. And that is because when we say health insurance, those are the people who get their health insurance through Medicaid.
Yep. And this issue has been so politically charged from the beginning. Trump and other Republicans can definitely use a wide description of what they consider under the umbrella of waste, fraud, and abuse. But you heard centrists complaining about it. They think, okay, if we do work requirements, if we do a few of these other changes in what they call guardrails, we can argue back home that this will be okay. But there is definitely some concern, and it's growing. You were seeing the Democratic ads that are building and attacking Republicans who even voted to just get out of the House, get it out of the Senate. And this will be what we're seeing playing out in the midterms as one of the biggest issues that Democrats campaign on.
We're listening to live coverage from CNN after the Senate did pass Trump's sweeping domestic policy bill 50-50, with our Vice President J.D. Vance passing the tie-breaking vote. So that has now passed. But it only means that it goes back to the House. I mean, it's the Senate's tweak of what the House sent them.
That's right.
3 days before Trump's deadline, July 4th, which is a surprise because this morning we were talking about, are they even going to get it done? And Trump thought about extending it. There were 3 Republicans that voted against it, but I think Well, obviously somebody knew that they had the votes, or they wouldn't have taken it to
That's
the floor.
right. They wouldn't have called the vote if they didn't have the votes, and so they knew how this was going to go down. And they had J.D. Vance there in the chambers, ready for the vote to come, the 50-50, so he could cast the tie-breaking vote. I think one of the things too we've talked about previously, but this bill, as it is written right now, removes the tax on tips and on overtime, but just through the rest of President Trump's presidential term, and then they'll go back on. But that brings up a whole nother issue with taxes and accounting, right? But that's another part of this bill.
Here's Utah Representative Doug Fiafia's comments on the bill.
Yes, this was a major win for Utah, for states, and at the end of the day for consumers. As Holly mentioned, this AI moratorium would have federally preempted state and local governments from enacting any AI laws for up to 10 years. And as quickly as AI...
And of course, what he's talking about is the AI moratorium being taken out of the bill. You and I talked about that. He was very happy about that. So it did pass without that. That was the AI moratorium that said that they wouldn't have... states couldn't enact legislation affecting artificial intelligence for 10 years. That was taken out of the bill. Representative Doug Fiafia talked about how Utah's already well ahead of the curve on that anyway. Well, that was late-breaking news. And when we come back after the break, we may stay with that, but we're also going to think about going to Trump's tour of what he calls Alligator Alcatraz, a new prison that's opening up in Florida and that is surrounded apparently by a moat of alligators. We'll be back after this break.
I am not a rich woman, but I feel like a rich woman every time I go in my closet. The best, hands down, present I've ever received was my husband secretly redid my closet with Closets by Design. So now when I go in there aren't all these shoes just junked on the floor. They're neatly sitting on their shelves. And my necklaces are hanging on their individual hooks, and earrings are in their little squares in this soft drawer that pulls out. It's just gorgeous. In fact, he saw how much I loved it. He had Closets by Design redo the garage. So now all the stuff, the tools, the toys, the junk is all in cabinets. When you open our garage door, you see cars. That's it. It's amazing. The things that Closets by Design can do, and it's going to save you money right now because you get up to 40% off plus an additional 15% off with 18-month financing. You can do so much with your closet, much more than you realize, with this wonderful Utah company, Closets by Design. Find out more at 1-800-BY-DESIGN or closetsbydesign.com.
When is the optimal time to file for Social Security? That could help you get every penny that is rightfully yours. Get the answer in a free report, your guide to filing for Social Security in 2025 and beyond. It's from Boss Retirement Solutions, who's helped tens of thousands of families get the most out of their benefits. If you've saved more than $200,000 and have not filed for Social Security, get your free report now by calling 801-251-1046. Timing, taxes, spousal benefits. This free report details the most critical things you must consider that could help you get the most income from your Social Security benefits today. Get this free report right now by calling 801-251-1046. That number again, 801-251-1046.
Boss Retirement Solutions is not affiliated with the Social Security Administration.
Held over due to popular demand. This is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates, this weekend only. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Friday, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandswimspasale.com.
I am down 50 pounds in 11 weeks, and this program works. The pounds melt off. It's amazing.
I let go of 50 pounds. It felt unreal. I was so proud of myself.
Get in the best shape of your life with SOTA weight loss.
Just 3 weeks in, and pounds are dropping off very quickly. I am down 26 pounds in 3 weeks.
Summer is right around the corner.
Your summer body starts right here because SOTA's summer savings are on.
Every single day, SOTA weight loss is helping people let go of the weight without drugs, without hunger, and the weight stays off.
I tried other things, came to SOTA, just amazing.
I started on SOTA 8 months ago, and I have released 80 pounds now.
Summer savings, stunning results, only at SOTA weight loss. Get started now at SOTAweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com.
SOTA is, say it with me, state of the art.
Getting help with electrical repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
And expanded Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
Among other things going on today, Holly, and there's a lot going on. The Senate did pass the mega bill, and they're sending that back to the House after a 50-50 vote with J.D. Vance breaking the tie. So that part of the one big beautiful bill is now behind us. But at the same time, President Trump is in Florida visiting the latest immigration detention center his administration is setting up. This one is in the Florida Everglades, of all places, and they've nicknamed it Alligator Alcatraz. ABC News White House correspondent Karen Travers has the latest.
President Trump visiting the remote airfield in the Everglades that his administration is turning into a new migrant detention facility. Operations there start today, and the facility will eventually hold up to 5,000 people. Asked if the location, dubbed Alligator Alcatraz by the administration, was chosen specifically because of the conditions, that if detainees escape, they could get eaten by an alligator or a snake, the president told reporters, yes.
Snakes are fast, but alligators are, but we're going to teach them how to run away from an alligator, okay? If they escape prison.
Karen Travers, ABC News, the White House.
I have a lot of strong feelings about this. I just think it's cruel. Seriously, we're going to let people get eaten by alligators and be okay with it and joke about it? That's not okay.
No, I know. It's really awkward. I mean, on the one hand, you hope that you have a prison facility that's secure, but surrounded by lake of alligators and snakes is a little bit, I don't know, over
medieval.
The top. Yeah, this is President Trump explaining what Alligator Alcatraz is at a press conference after a tour through the facility.
Deep in Florida, the Florida Everglades, to open America's newest migrant detention center. It's known as Alligator Alcatraz. Very soon, this facility will house some of the most menacing migrants, some of the most vicious people on the planet. We're surrounded by miles of treacherous swampland, and the only way out is really deportation. And a lot of these people are self-deporting back to their country where they came from.
I was surprised at the size of the facility. 5,000 people. I mean, I don't even know what they've got built there.
It's literally cages. So there are some pictures online. They are just metal cages.
You know, and one of the problems that the Trump administration recognized with deportation is that on the one hand, it was taking a long time to get people deported because of that whole due process thing.
That whole due process thing.
Whole fairness in the courts thing. And that while people were waiting to be deported, there was no place to hold them. So they would be out waiting their deportation. Right. And some didn't show up for their deportation hearing because it was taking weeks and months sometimes to get to that. So his solution, the administration's solution, was to build these bigger facilities to hold detainees while their immigration packets were being processed. This one holds 5,000. I mean, I think there are others.
That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people to be holding while they're waiting to be deported. And these people arguably, and I think if you ask the administration or some of his supporters, are here illegally in the first place. That doesn't necessarily mean historically that we've held them in custody, but our current administration considers that alone sometimes to be enough of a basis to hold people.
Right. I mean, one of the things President Trump just said in the sound clip that we heard is that these are the worst of the worst. But what we have seen across the nation is the ICE agents are not arresting the worst of the worst. They're arresting grandmas and, grandpas and gardeners and U.S. citizens even.
Yeah, and of course, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis encouraged other states to step up to the plate and build their own.
Don't let Florida be the only state. We've got very red states that should be doing this just as much as Florida's doing. That will increase their numbers. And then what happens is you'll have a lot of people that will deport on their own because they don't want to end up in an Alligator, Alcatraz, or some of those other places. So I think this is a model, but we need other states to step up.
I never thought I would live in a day where we're trumpeting what I think are basically internment camps. We had one in Utah. It's the Topaz internment camp down by Delta, right, where we rounded up people of Japanese descent and said, because of the color of your skin, basically your ethnic background, you're going to go here.
Yeah, we haven't done that in our country for a long time. And by the way, Utah is a red state that doesn't have a detention facility. We don't have any federal facilities here in Utah to hold federal inmates. And I get court appointed on federal cases all the time, and clients are in custody. They're either held at local county jails, or right now they seem to have everybody in Nevada. It's hard to visit your client when they're in parole from Nevada, but that's where they are. Is Utah going to step up to the plate here? I hate to use that phrase because it makes it sound like
I hope not. I mean, not if we're going to do something like Alligator Alcatraz. What would we do at Rattlesnake Alcatraz in Utah? That would just I don't think that's okay. And even worse, you've got the Florida Republican Party who's profiting on this now, and they're selling merchandise.
The Florida Republican Party now selling Alligator Alcatraz merchandise online. And all of this comes as the administration ramps up its deportation efforts. New data analyzed by ABC's own television station's data team showing a recent shift in arrest. The administration now arresting more migrants with no criminal convictions.
Yeah, that's what we talked about, because they're running out of people that have criminal convictions, especially if they're trying to keep their numbers up, something like 3,000 a day. Right. You've got to go around to the local Home Depots and try to get people who don't have criminal records. And, of course, the administration is saying, well, being here in the country is a crime by itself. But the whole idea that we were always being sold on is the murderers, the rapists, the robbers who are in our country committing these
cartel members,
crimes. Right? Yeah. The drug dealers who are in our country need to be deported. Yeah, that sounds great, but a lot of these people were people that don't have a prior criminal history at all. They're just here illegally, and they're going to be held in custody now for some period of time. I guess it's better than El Salvador, but still.
I think even that statement that they're here illegally. Let me just say, we had 500,000 people who were here legally that the Trump administration stripped their legal status from them, creating 500,000 people who were here illegally. They did come the right way. They did have legal protection, and now that has been stripped from them.
Yeah, it's interesting. This one, they're really showboating at this whole Alligator Alcatraz. I'll tell you this, it'll only take one, but let's just assume that somebody tries to get away or moves out or gets out there and is attacked by an alligator. I mean, that would be the worst possible thing that could happen, I think, because I don't know that the public's going to be all that happy about that.
Are we imposing a death penalty now because you crossed a border and that's a misdemeanor?
Yeah, that did you try to escape a facility and you're going to get, I mean, that's something I don't know that the public's prepared for. I do think that there's some, I can understand, and I'm playing devil's advocate here, the administration saying, okay, you're in this place and there's danger all around, don't escape, or there's snakes and alligators, that's going to keep you here. But somebody's going to push the envelope, and that could be something horrible.
This is just a huge issue. If you remember, too, President Trump said he wanted to reopen Alcatraz, and got a lot of pushback on that. It's now a museum, right, out in California in the Bay. But it was that idea of it's surrounded by unfriendly waters. And I don't think anybody got eaten by a shark,
Right.
but there were people who did escape.
Yeah, right. They made a movie about that.
Yep.
Escape from Alcatraz. I don't know what this area is like. It's in the Everglades. I don't know what was there before. It must have been some.
They did have a building there before. I think it had something to do with an airport, and so they had a facility that they reimagined. Now, instead of using it for the local airport, it's now going to be used to detain up to 5,000 people at a time.
And you said that the place where they're going to be detained, or they're going to have huts or tents or.
No, it's like it's a building, but inside the building, it's literally metal cages inside the building.
5,000.
That's a lot.
That's a big building.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. And big press conference. He's in Florida right now talking about it. And, of course, the Senate has passed his big, beautiful bill. So it's a good day for our president. And he's taking questions from reporters. We don't know that we'll have time to go to that. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know when this is scheduled to open it. They wouldn't be having the press conference if it wasn't pretty quick.
Yeah, the tease at the top of the hour said they were planning on opening it today, I guess.
Oh, okay. Well,
I guess after President Trump leaves.
And it won't take long, the way things are going in this country, to fill it up if it's got 5,000 beds.
We're not arresting that many a day.
Yeah. Crazy. Okay, well, let's go to Tennessee. They passed a new law. This one's interesting, that will ban minors' driving privileges for a year if they are found guilty of bullying or cyberbullying. That's really interesting. A judge has said, let's take a different step. Let's do something more, add something to the punishment if you're guilty of bullying, and that is take your license away. We'll talk about that when we come back.
10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour: the Stadium of Fire takes place Friday in Provo, and organizers say they've made changes to their fireworks show to make sure no malfunctioning fireworks shoot into the crowd. Last year, dozens of people were hurt when several fireworks went into the crowd. John Dymock was there and told KSL he was sitting next to a person hit by the malfunctioning fireworks.
He was hit in the chest area, and we had... He laid down almost immediately. A guy next to him had a lot of ash and other things that on his white shirt. And then there was another woman there that her hair was smoldering and on fire, and people were trying to pat that out too.
He says some people had hearing injuries and others were hit by pieces of shrapnel. Weber County officials have signed a deal with the federal government with a goal of cracking down on illegal immigration. KSL News Radio's Adam Small has details.
Under this program, the Weber County Sheriff's Office will be able to check someone's immigration status, and if they don't have documentation, they will be referred to ICE. But the county sheriff tells KSL.com they won't be going out of their way to seek out undocumented immigrants. Rather, they'll run background checks on people they arrest or pull over, particularly those who don't have a legal ID.
Washington and San Pete counties have also joined this program. Our top national story this hour from ABC News: Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney says trade talks with the U.S. have resumed. This comes after Canada rescinded its plan to tax U.S. technology firms. Your money at this moment: the Dow up 457 points today to 44,552. Coming up, a heat advisory starting at noon today. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 10:31.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
You've built the dream, the home, the lifestyle, the legacy. Now it's time your windows and doors reflect that same $1 million standard. Whether you're designing a stunning custom home or upgrading the one you've loved for years, Peach Doors and Windows is here to bring that vision to life with precision, style, and craftsmanship.
The Peach specialty? High-end custom windows and doors that don't just fit your space, they elevate it. From sleek modern lines to timeless elegant finishes, they offer the kinds of craftsmanship that truly complements a $1 million space. And with Peach, the process is easy. No pressure, no gimmicks, just knowledgeable experts helping you find solutions to turn your someday project into right now.
Visit their spacious showroom, get inspired, and create something beautiful together. Peach Doors and Windows for the $1 million home you live in and the $1 million feeling you deserve. Visit peachdoorsandwindows.com or call 801-566-1255 today.
That's Peach Windows and Doors. Give them a call, 801-566-1255.
Hey, it's Mike Rohn. If I have a choice, I like to do business with companies that actually stand for something. That's why I switched from Verizon to Pure Talk. No offense to Verizon, I'm sure they stand for something. I just don't know what it is. Pure Talk, on the other hand, is a veteran-owned company that supports our military in a big way, and I appreciate that. Yeah, I also appreciate unlimited talk and text and plenty of data for half the cost of the big guys, and I do like being on America's most dependable 5G network for just $20 a month. But what I really appreciate is no contract, no cancellation fees, and Pure Talk's commitment to handle all their customer service in this country. I saw it for myself. I went to Georgia, I got a tour of their headquarters, I met their CEO, and I talked to the same customer service folks that you'll talk to when you dial pound 250 and say keyword micro. Switch today and save 50% off your first month when you dial pound 250 and say keyword micro. Pure Talk, a wireless company that actually stands for something.
Nothing says summer like double rewards on your Mountain America Rewards credit card. Get 2 times the points on everything from gas and groceries to travel and home projects. Now through July 31st, 2025. It's the perfect way to stretch your dollar and make summer doubly rewarding. Apply for your Mountain America Rewards credit card at macu.com/double. Loans on approved credit. Offer can change or be withdrawn at any time. Limited time offer. Terms and conditions apply.
For nearly 70 years, Les Olson IT has been the trusted name for businesses. From state-of-the-art printers and copiers to managed IT services, we have the solutions you need to stay ahead in today's world. And now Les Olson IT is trusted and licensed in Utah for security systems, for technology that helps you work smarter. Les Olson IT, providing solutions that empower your business.
Les Olson IT.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here's Heather Kelly.
Well, right now we're accident-free all across the Wasatch Front, and the earlier debris we had southbound 15 in North Salt Lake is gone, so no traffic is slowed in that area. The only thing that may slow you down now are just the orange barrels that you can see pretty much on every roadway. Right now we're seeing a little bit of congestion moving between Kaysville and Farmington due to lane restrictions, and of course most of the day you're going to see off and on slowdowns coming out of Tooele County on both SR 36 and eastbound I-80. While you're planning your day, plan for comfort too with the Good Feet store. Find the location nearest you at goodfeet.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, we have a heat advisory that goes into effect at noon and will be close to 100 degrees today in Salt Lake City. KSL Weather Center says there's also a chance for pop-up thunderstorms over the next 3 days, which could produce dry lightning and microburst winds. Right now, it is already 91 degrees and sunny in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We are Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
So I, as a mom of a large family, I actually had several kids, maybe more than several, who were victims of bullying while they were in school. And one of them in particular was so disturbing to me that I escalated at the school immediately and got relief, right? And these were elementary age school kids. But I found out later as my high schoolers got through graduation that several of them had been really targeted, and they just didn't want to tell me because they knew mom would make a big deal about it.
Yeah, when you said the school took some steps, I forget the word you used. What did that look like?
So
you said you got a remedy.
We did, and you know, one of the things I think that was important in our case is that we had already had a good relationship with the school, and so when I said this is a problem and I want to see it fixed right away. They did. And so what they did was they actually talked to the bully's family. He had to do some restitution work with our son, but they also spent the entire next academic year focused on anti-bullying within the school and saying it's not just a punch in the face, right? Bullying can take all these other forms. And one of those forms, and this wasn't the case in our son's example, but one of those forms that bullying can take is cyberbullying. So over Snapchat or over, Instagram, TikTok, whatever it is, right? And Tennessee has come up with, I think, a really creative idea to really put some teeth into some consequences for bullying.
Right. A new law sponsored by one of their representatives there requires juvenile court judges to suspend a minor's driver's license or the ability to get a license if there's under 16 for a year.
Yep.
If the teen is found guilty of bullying, it's called a delinquent, which is delinquency in juvenile court. That's what we call it here in Utah too, for bullying, or like you say, cyberbullying. And Utah passed a bullying statute, I think about 3 or 4 years ago, in response to just a horrific incident that happened here along the Wasatch Front. And we have a similar law. Now, we don't have a similar consequence to the law.
Not yet, but listen up, Utah legislators.
Yeah, I know. That's something that I think one of the legislatures might be taking a look at. And I'll tell you why. I mean, I've done a lot of work in juvenile court and adult court, and consequences are a huge part of the criminal justice system. And in juvenile system, we don't call them crimes. We call them delinquencies.
Okay.
They don't plead guilty. They admit, and you don't get a jury trial. You get a judge trial. But And it doesn't go on your record if you're in juvenile court. When you're adult, you can expunge it. You can clean up your record. So anytime you can stay in juvenile court, I encourage people to do that. But if a juvenile court judge can take your license away for a year, that's a huge consequence. I mean, if you think
for
about
a teenager,
absolutely,
big deal.
Yeah. If you're about to turn 16, I don't know. That's the kind of thing where a person might actually think really hard about what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it could also work into, like you described a minute ago with your own situation, maybe the bully saying, look, what do I need to do? How do I make this right? Please don't take my license away for a year, because how embarrassing is that you got to ride to school with mom and dad for a year,
I know,
or
as a high school senior or
with your
something,
friends
right?
or something like that. Your license is taken away because I assume Tennessee's like Utah. If your license is taken away and you get caught driving, it just adds another year.
Yeah.
It just adds another lengthy period of time to your suspension, and pretty soon it's like you're going to start driving when you're 23 years old.
Right. So, one of the, if you ask me, is there any other consequence that might be more impactful? And I would say the only one I could personally think of is taking away their phone.
I was going to say the exact same thing. Right.
You take away their phone for a year, but I don't know that law would pass. But this idea, I think that it really is taking people, thinking outside the box, right? And I like that they have done this in Tennessee. And in Utah, you mentioned we passed this law a few years back. It's called Izzy's Law. And it was because a little 10-year-old girl who's the same age as the granddaughter that we're raising was bullied so intensely at school in Davis County that she took her own life at age 10.
Yeah. What kind of person at age 10 even has the wherewithal to think of how to do that and to take the steps to do that? I mean, the situation to think of, because there probably wasn't a more happy time in most kids' lives than when they're
10 years old.
8 to 10 years old.
Right?
It's a good time. You have lots of friends. You're having fun at school. There's not a lot of pressure on you to look beautiful or to get ready for the prom or that kind of get a job or something.
Right.
I don't know. That was a tough one. We all remember that story. She's the cutest thing in the world, and then this legislature thought, as they do, you've got to react to this. And bullying, it's occurred throughout.
Probably
lifetime.
forever.
Everybody
right?
we know, and I don't know. I appreciate something you said. It hit close to home, because we had a stepson who was bullied, and he didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
He didn't tell us about it.
Right.
And we still haven't heard the whole story, and we don't need to. We don't want to. But that was a tough thing to think about. And because, as a parent, you're sort of helpless. Like, you can't just go to the school and say, hey, knock it off. And the school administrators, they kind of dance around it sometimes too. They do the best they can, but there's only so much you can do to prevent something like that from occurring.
One of the things in this article about the Tennessee thing is that this can be a multi-generational thing, and sometimes, kids learn bullying behaviors at home. And so if you call the bully in and the parents in, and they just pass it off and say, oh, boys will be boys, or, whatever, it wasn't really bullying. I don't know. But I do see that happens sometimes with hazing in the state of Utah, right, where you just play off things that are just, I think, really horrible, and you just say, oh, well, everybody does that, or every kid does that. It's not true. Not all kids bully. Not all kids, do inappropriate behavior when they're welcoming people to a sports team. But it's a conversation. Like, I had some bullying that happened when I was in school, junior high especially, and I don't think I really talked to my parents about it, but it wasn't an endless harassment every day over a phone that I had, right? That people are either making fun of me or, just there's consequences, really severe consequences, potentially, right, when these kids are driven to take their own lives because of the bullying.
Yeah, and hazing is a part of the bullying statute in most states, including Utah and Tennessee. I wasn't bullied. I don't have in any sort of significant way, but I look back. This is one thing I think about, and it's odd. I think about watching people be bullied and not doing anything about it. I mean, I didn't do anything, and I sometimes wish I could find that person,
right,
and say, I'm sorry.
I should have intervened.
I should have done something, because we all watched it occurring, and not necessarily, aiding and abetting, like you would say in the criminal context, but not stopping it. It haunts me today.
Look, and that's a thing where, as an adult, you can look back and say, I should have stepped up. Teenagers, it's hard. It's hard. Kids want to fit in, right? We know that. Kids want to fit in. They don't want to become the target of the bully. But I think that's the best thing, is to know how to speak up and make a difference. And, if Utah were to enact this similar legislation here, I think friends could even say to friends, hey, look, do you want to lose your license?
Right, over
because
this.
you could do that.
Is it really worth it?
Yeah, is
right.
it worth losing your license
Yeah,
over? I mean, that gives you one more hook.
Yeah. Well, I would assume that a Utah legislator might at least take a look at this and say, hey, if this is working in Tennessee, maybe we can have something like this in Utah.
I hope they're listening to our show.
Seriously, I think they do. At least we hear from them once in a while. Well, we were going to talk about the Brian Kohlberger case, but then the vote came up on the Senate. I think we're going to go back to that after the break, because there's so much going on with that case, and victims, as you might think, he's about to plead guilty to 4 murders and spend the rest of his life in prison, but the victims' families are not happy.
They are big mad.
We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Derek Overstreet, president of the New Millennium Group and co-host of Stop Working, Start Living with KSL News Radio. Can you imagine what your life would be like if you could retire 3 to 5 years earlier than you thought possible? The things you could do, the loved ones you could spend time with, the memories that you could create. That's what our team at the New Millennium Group does. We'll walk you through the entire process every step of the way. If you'd like to get a copy of the 5-step proprietary plan that will help you retire 3 to 5 years sooner than you thought possible, give us a shout right now. 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370 or utahsfinancialplanner.com. Listen, most of our listeners right now have a tax problem, not a money problem. There's not enough money in Social Security Medicare as it is. Let us show you how you can significantly reduce your taxes. That's 888-999-6370, 888-999-6370, or utahsfinancialplanner.com.
You trust us for news and information in your car. Now trust us at home. KSL News Radio has you covered, keeping you informed on the latest breaking news, weather, traffic, sports, and more. Listen on your Amazon Echo or Google Home device. Just say, Alexa, open KSL News Radio. Or listen on the KSL News Radio Listen app. Text the word app to 57500. KSL News Radio. We have you covered.
This week's movie show brought to you by My Hearing Centers. Schedule a hearing evaluation and be entered to win a set of premium hearing aids by tuning in Thursday from 10 to 1.
Staples presents That Was Easy.
So, I was taking my side hustle full-time.
Bold move, my friend.
And I needed to find everything in one stop.
Like finding Bigfoot riding a unicorn.
Yes, so I hit the Staples Easy button. Staples had everything for a new office and print services for signs and brochures. Plus, Cindy, the Staples associate, helped me find the best tech for me.
Wait, no drama?
No, Staples made it easy.
For the products, services, and experts your business needs. Staples.
That was easy.
In-store, online, and on the app.
Hi, it's me, Flo, here to tell you that with the Progressive Home and Auto Bundle, you get 24/7 protection, so you're covered no matter where the day takes you.
Even I added too much water to the pizza dough day?
Yep.
How about getting a call from my daughter to pick her up at the airport because her boyfriend is unreliable day?
Especially that day.
What about finding out that one of my pipes suddenly burst in my basement day?
Progressive has every day covered 24/7 with the Home and Auto Bundle. Also, you have a lot of bad days.
Oh no, that was all the same day.
At least you're covered with Progressive.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states.
Boo-hoo-hoo.
Jason, why are you crying?
I just saw a house with a "We Got New Windows" sign in their yard.
Well, why does that make you cry?
Because they spent twice as much as they needed to for high-quality windows.
Window World offers amazing windows for way less than the other guys.
And we don't play pricing games with phony discounts.
At Window World, we treat every customer like family.
Call Window World today at 281-8111 for a no-pressure, no-hassle quote.
Window World, simply the best. And as Doug always said,
That's no baloney.
Hey, summer's here and only getting hotter. Better save now on a new day and night heat pump and air conditioning system.
Keep cool with a new day and night heat pump and air conditioning system surpassing the new federal standards. It's easy, eco-friendly, and affordable. For example, select a low-interest financing plan on approved systems and combine that with tax credits of up to $2,000. Go to dayandnightcomfort.com for a day and night elite dealer near you. The difference is day and night.
Any Hour Services can make sure your AC keeps you cool this summer. Whether you need a tune-up, repair, or just a second opinion about replacing it, call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
Matthew.
Huh? Oh, sorry.
It's okay. I just need you to listen to me.
I know that a lot of times, Mom, it might not seem like I'm listening to you, but I am. I hear you. And what you say really does matter to me.
I mean, let's be honest. No kid likes rules, but I get why we have them. I hear you, and I know it's because you care.
All the talks we've had over the years, including what you've told me about not using alcohol and other drugs, they stick with me. And believe it or not, they really do make a difference, especially at times that matter most.
Hey, want a drink?
No thanks, I'm good. So thank you, Dad, for talking and preparing me for what's ahead.
Thanks, Mom, for never giving up and always being my biggest fan.
Thank you for letting me know what you expect, so I can try to meet your expectations.
Thank you for talking.
For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. And expanded Inside Sources.
So I remember when the news broke about 4 University of Idaho students who were murdered in their home while they slept, it seemed to be. And when Brian Kohlberger was arrested and he's been charged. So news yesterday, so that those murders actually happened in November of 2022. It's already been a year and a half. Yesterday, we got news that Brian Kohlberger has agreed to plead guilty on 4 murder charges, which means he won't be eligible for the death penalty. But it blindsided family members of the victim, like Steve Goncalves, whose daughter Katie was killed on that day.
We were not prepared for this. We had no idea that this was going to happen. It's the opposite of what we wanted. I won't speak on all the family's parts, but I can 100%, because I was in the same room with them fighting against this decision with multiple families. This is not the majority.
That's unusual, Holly. And Idaho has a law very similar to Utah's, which requires, it's called part of what's called the Victims' Bill of Rights. It requires that victims be notified before. Now, I'm digressing a little bit. The victims be notified when significant stages are happening in a case. In other words, the trial's coming up. The defendant's about to plead guilty. The defendant's going to be sentenced. There's a preliminary hearing, things like that. But also importantly in that, they need to be notified if there's going to be a plea bargain. Now, that doesn't mean that the victims have the right to veto the plea bargain. It's not like a civil case where the victim is a party to the case. If you look at the pleading, it's the state of Idaho versus Brian Kohlberger.
Right.
The victims and their families are witnesses. They're victims. They're part of the case, but they're not parties to the case, like a civil case, like when we talked about the Retzlaff case yesterday.
Sure.
You've got the plaintiff and the defendant, and they both have input in how a case is resolved. But victims have the right to be notified, and the state has the obligation. It's a legal and moral obligation to at least notify them to what's going on. So what's odd in this case is not so much the plea bargain, because I do want to talk about that a little bit. The plea bargain seems like not the worst thing in the world, but the victims being blindsided by it and hearing about it seemingly in the news.
Mm-hmm. It sounded to me like they were notified that it was going to happen. Are you saying they should have been notified that they were in discussions about a plea bargain?
I think no. I'm taking it even further than that.
Okay.
They were notified that they were in discussions about a plea bargain.
Okay.
But when the plea bargain was actually offered, they should have told the victims, "We're going to offer a plea bargain that includes." And what happened here? He's going to plead guilty to 4 counts of murder plus a burglary charge, and agree to serve life in prison without parole,
Right.
and agree not to appeal anything. That's the plea bargain. And on its face, that seems not the worst thing in the world,
Mm-hmm.
but the victims had the right to be told about that.
Mm-hmm.
And so the state should have, and I don't know, we haven't heard from the state, we're just listening to the victims who are upset. The state should have sat down with the victims' families and said, here's what's on the table. We're likely to give him an offer of 4 life sentences. He'll never get out of prison.
Right.
He'll spend the rest of his life there, and he can't appeal. It's over. And they could have said, we don't like that. That's awful. Please don't do that. And the state would have said, well, we're going to anyway. And we appreciate your comments,
Yeah.
and we're sensitive to that, but we're going to move forward. What they apparently did wrong, at least according to Steve Conclaves, is he said, we didn't even know what was going on. We just heard that there were some plea negotiations, and all of a sudden we hear, boom, he's going to get life in prison without possibility of parole. We wanted him executed. And so it's not. I don't know that it's the plea bargain as much as the victims didn't have the right to participate or be told about it.
Right, and so that's really, I guess it's another question of mine. First of all, I don't understand why, as a parent, why they would want to go through a jury trial. I mean, I think the outcome would be the same even when you're sentenced to death. Like we had a conversation about people on death row in Utah for decades, right? It really is the same type of sentence. Eventually, sometimes it ends in an execution, sometimes not. But I don't understand as a parent why they would want to put themselves through knowing all of the really gory details about these murders.
That's a good point, because had there been a trial, and it does not look like it's going to be, because it looks like Kohberger's going to plead guilty tomorrow.
Yeah.
Had there been a trial, one of the elements is that Kohberger caused the death, and they would have had to put the medical examiner on, who would have testified to the findings. And some of these kids had what are called defensive wounds. In other words,
they woke up while they were
knew
being
something
stabbed.
was going on, and it was an incredible stabbing. 4 kids are killed. People were wondering how he could have done this, because it appears that he was only in the house for a matter of minutes. But for the fact that he dropped a knife sheath at the scene that has his DNA on it, it would have been a hard case to prove. And he wasn't even caught until weeks later in
a different state,
Pennsylvania. And he's brought back here, and he's like, if you recall, he had his first court appearance. He wouldn't even say not guilty. The judge said, well, I'll enter your not guilty plea for you. He's got this awful smirk on his face all the time. He's got a very aggressive lawyer. He's been pushing that case. And you're right. The families would have been hanging on the edge of their seat while the jury deliberates a month from now, because it was scheduled to be a 3 or 4 week trial.
I thought it was a 3-month trial.
Oh yeah, it could very well have been. I don't know. I can't imagine a case like this would take 3 months, but it would take whatever it takes, especially with 4 victims. But it would have been you're right, 3 months they'd set for it. I doubt it would have taken that long. Anyway, the family would have been sitting there, and more importantly, Holly, 10 years from now, when he's up for the review of his sentence, and the death penalty's on the table again, and another appeal is filed to the Idaho Supreme Court, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, the United States Supreme Court.
We're
Revisiting this again. And you get to the eve of the execution, and another appeal occurs. And if you recall this case in Utah recently, I think it was the Carter case, he'd been on death row for 40 years, and they decided that the prosecutor acted inappropriately, withheld evidence. The police had cut some deal with some victims that they didn't disclose, and they set his conviction aside.
Yeah.
Now, had he pled guilty to the murder and life without parole, he'd be serving life without parole. As it is, his conviction is set aside, and he's going to have a new trial. And I know that the county attorneys down there are scrambling to go, hey, are we going to be able to put a case together on this guy? Where are our witnesses 40 years later? And so that finality is worth something. But I do have to say this, and I was a prosecutor, Holly, for 8 years, and when we enacted the Victims' Bill of Rights was actually enacted while I was prosecuting, and we all thought, ugh, because you didn't have to do anything prior to that.
Yeah.
You just cut a deal, and the victims are mad. You read about it in the paper the next day. Now you're required to talk to them, and you're required to get their input, and you're required to and the judge will ask when a prosecutor cuts a deal. The judge will say, Mr. or Ms. Prosecutor, or the victims consulted on this case, and how do they feel? Well, I talked to them, they're on board. Or I talked to them, they're not happy.
Now the judge knows how they feel.
Yeah. So the plea is set for tomorrow. I can't imagine anything's going to change. And if the state pulls it off the table, that looks really awkward now, because all of the jury that could potentially sit in this case would know that he was going to plead guilty.
Right.
So that kind of hurts the whole "I didn't do it" defense.
I do see. We talked about Kaylee, who was murdered. Her sister posted on Facebook, and maybe this is a reason. I'm not sure. But Brian Kohlberger facing a life in prison means he would still get to speak, form relationships, and engage with the world. Meanwhile, our loved ones have been silenced forever. That reality stings more deeply when it feels like the system is protecting his future more than honoring the victim's past. But I don't understand. Is he going to have additional privileges with life in prison that he wouldn't have had on death row?
No, he'll be in max. He'll be in supermax. He'll be treated the same as a death row inmate. He'll be wearing handcuffs anytime he walks outside. He'll be able to speak to other inmates. I guess his family can come visit him.
But so can death row inmates, can't they?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
What she's saying is he'll be able to speak forever. He'll be able to do these things.
And yes,
no finality.
And also he would be on death row for a really long time.
Right. Now I can understand both sides of this. The state should have given them the heads up, and then their arguments would have had a little less weight. When we come back, we are going to go and talk about a little bit different angle to the One Big Beautiful Bill, because I think we've hit it pretty hard. We're going to be joined by Deseret News congressional correspondent Cami Mondo, who's been up all night with the latest developments and how we got to the point where we are right now, which is the Senate having passed the Big Beautiful Bill.
FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Verl Johansson. KSL's top story this hour comes from ABC News. The U.S. Senate has approved the budget bill, sending it back to the House for final approval.
After a marathon voting session that lasted more than 26 hours, the Senate passed the massive measure by the slimmest of margins. 3 GOP senators voted against it, but Vice President J.D. Vance cast the tie-breaking vote in favor. The bill now goes back to the House, where conservatives and moderates have their own issues with some of the changes that have been made by the Senate, including a $5 trillion increase in the debt ceiling and a Congressional Budget Office price tag in excess of $3 trillion.
That was ABC News national correspondent Stephen Portnoy. Drivers returning from the long 4th of July weekend will most likely see the worst delays on US 6 through Spanish Fork Canyon. KSL News Radio's Heather Kelly has more.
The Utah Department of Transportation says Sunday is going to have the heaviest traffic heading westbound from 11:30 in the morning until 7 at night, with almost an hour of delays. On top of that, US 6 will be down to 1 lane in each direction near Wellington for road construction. UDOT says most projects across the state are suspended for the holiday, but some lane restrictions have to stay in place for safety reasons.
I-15 in Davis and Salt Lake counties is also expected to have delays on Sunday. Your money at this moment, the Dow up 325 points, the S&P 500 down 10, and the NASDAQ down 138. Coming up, more high temperatures and a chance for thunderstorms. KSL Weather's next. KSL News Time, 11:01.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Summer is the perfect time for a refresh. Maybe you're taking time off from school, hitting the road for a well-earned vacation, or just soaking up the sunshine in your own backyard. This summer, give it the same fresh start with Zerorez carpet and air duct cleaning. Right now, Zerorez is offering an unbeatable summer deal. Get 3 rooms of carpet cleaned for just $129 and take 15% off air duct cleaning while you're at it. Zerorez cleans with their patented ZR water, which means no soaps, no harsh chemicals, and no crunchy residue left behind. So whether you're cleaning up from summer adventures or just want a home that feels as fresh as it looks, now's the time. Get 3 rooms of carpet clean for just $129 and take 15% off air duct cleaning while you're at it. Book your appointment today at Zerorez.com. Spelled the same forward or backward. Zerorez is the right way to clean.
Held over due to popular demand. This is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates, this weekend only. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Friday, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandswimspasale.com.
Whether you're building your $1 million dream home, giving your current home a facelift, or just trying to get it out of the minor leagues, Peach Windows and Doors brings the big league look.
Modern style, energy efficiency, clean lines, tough builds, and curb appeal that hits like a home run. Not sure what you need? No sweat. Peach has the coaching staff to get your home in the game. No pressure, no gimmicks, just solid game plans and pro-level results to help you knock it out of the park.
Come see for yourself big, beautiful windows that bring the outside in. Visit Peach Windows and Doors showroom, big enough to spark ideas, small enough to feel right at home. It's time to step up your game and make your house the MVP of the neighborhood. Why live in the minor leagues when you can swing like $1 million? Peach Windows and Doors, because real homes play like champions. Visit peachdoorsandwindows.com or call 801-566-1255 for your free consultation.
That's Peach Windows and Doors. Give them a call, 801-566-1255.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here's Heather Kelly.
We've got a new crash on the west side belt. This is southbound I-215, right at the top of the connecting ramp from westbound 201 freeway. So the crash itself is on I-215, but one of the emergency crews that responded is blocking the left shoulder of that ramp right at the top from 201 to go southbound 15. So lanes are still open. There's not really any delay. You just need to use caution right in that area. Otherwise, you're going to have a good drive on I-15 both directions in Utah, Salt Lake, and Davis counties. All tickets are on sale now, so claim your spot and start planning your perfect Park City night. Details at DeerValleyMusicFestival.org. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Today's highs flirting with triple digits and 99 degrees. We'll cool off Wednesday and Thursday with some isolated thunderstorms before heating back up into the weekend. Right now, partly cloudy and 91 degrees in Salt Lake City. I'm Verl Johansson from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Well, Holly, the Senate has passed Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill. It wasn't without some consternation and some argument, and including a what people have called an all-nighter, or at least most of the night, and a vote-a-rama, a couple things you don't think about much when you think about the United States Senate. But they got it done a couple days early. They did some things. They took some things out of it. They made some tweaks to it. They took the AI restriction out of it. Mike Lee took his
public lands
out of it, and some other things. Medicaid took a hit in ways that people didn't expect. But boy, people were up all night on this one.
Yeah, and Cami Mondo is joining us after the all-nighter. She's the Deseret News congressional correspondent who has been keeping us up to date. Welcome, Cami.
Thank you for having me.
How are you hanging in there?
Doing well. Just walked off Capitol Hill, was up there for about 29 hours straight, so definitely a little bit tired, but, it's a good fun, as we were saying earlier this week.
Good fun. Tell your bosses you need a break, man, and a bonus. So my first...
Maybe they're listening, who knows?
Yeah, right? So my first question about the Vote-A-Rama, was there anything in particular besides the AI thing that we've talked about? Was there anything in particular that stood out during these all-night amendment debates?
I think the thing that stood out the most to a lot of us reporters who were covering is that these amendments took a lot longer than you've ever seen a Vote-A-Rama do before. I mean, this Vote-A-Rama took records for the longest hour-wise, but also longest amendment-wise. It came in at, I think, around 45 or 46 amendments, which is longer than any before. But it also took longer because Senate Republicans were still writing the bill as they were voting on it, and so they were holding open these votes to kind of kill time. There was even a part this morning where they paused activity on the floor altogether while they were still trying to put some details in. So it was kind of just a haphazard experience that I think took a lot of us by surprise.
Cami, when we started the show this morning, we were hearing that Trump had indicated that he was open to the idea of delaying his July 4th deadline, meaning as recently as 3 or 4 hours ago, he was feeling like it may not pass. I mean, something happened very quickly, it seems, and they wouldn't have taken it to the vote unless they felt like they had the votes. What do you think happened that coalesced everybody at that last couple of hours here?
Right. It became very clear late last night that there were going to be at least 4 holdouts. So we were looking at Murkowski, Collins, Tillis, and Paul. These are the 4 Republicans that were basically a no at the moment. But if you had 4 no's, it would fail on the floor, even with J.D. Vance there as the tiebreaker. And so during all those hours, from about 11 p.m. last night up until passage this morning, GOP leaders were consistently meeting with these lawmakers, seeing who they could get to budge. And so I think even in the hours leading up to the vote, Senate Majority Leader John Thune wasn't sure if it was going to pass. He is basically throwing it on the floor to see what would happen. And I think in some ways he got lucky, but I think in some ways he was really just hoping that they could get this through.
So the one person that got to flip from a no to a yes was Murkowski from Alaska, correct?
Yes, correct. So they had somehow formed some deal with her that with the Medicaid and SNAP cuts that did get passed in this version of the bill, there'd be some carve-outs and exceptions for her state and other states that have higher tax rates so that the cuts wouldn't cut too deep.
Cami, were you surprised at any significant changes to the bill that were done at the last minute, any significant cutouts that you think may have gotten this over the hump?
I think partially the AI moratorium that you were just bringing up was a big surprise. Earlier in the day, Marsha Blackburn and Ted Cruz announced a deal that they would keep the moratorium in the bill, but it would be 5 years, which was less than the 10-year original deal. But hours before, Blackburn announced that she was no longer going to go through with it, which was a surprise. But what was even more shocking was when it did come to the floor, almost every senator voted to rip it out of the bill, even Ted Cruz himself. So I think that was one of the biggest surprises. That should definitely help on the House side a little bit because there were some conservatives who were not very thrilled about that.
Yeah, so that leads me right into my next question is, what is the process now? So it's passed the House in one version, it's passed the Senate in a different version. What can we expect in the few days left this week before it's supposed to be on President Trump's desk?
Okay, so House Republicans are indicating that they want to move as quickly as possible. The House Rules Committee, which is the committee that decides how it's brought to the floor, is meeting this afternoon. House Republican leaders sent out a whip notice just a few minutes ago saying that they want to try and get things started tomorrow morning. Whether that will work out is still unclear. There are a lot of Republicans who are unhappy with what the Senate passed. And, they want changes, but Republican leaders, Speaker Mike Johnson, he wants to get it through by Friday.
So are they going to go to conference first, or are they just going to go straight to the House floor?
House Republican leaders want to go straight to the House floor. They want to avoid, trying to make any more changes or negotiations. They're worried that will drag it out. So they're hoping to just put it on the floor either tomorrow or Thursday.
Cami, what was the mood in the Senate at 2 or 3 or 4 o'clock this morning? I mean, people are going that late, and I know that they didn't go without some break, but, I mean, did it appear that people were getting groggy or tired or starting to fade?
You could definitely tell around like the 2 a.m., 3 a.m. period that a lot of senators were starting to get tired. Some senators were actually bringing blankets onto the floor because it was a little chilly in the chamber. I actually met up with John Curtis a couple times in the hallway as he was going back and forth. A lot of them were grabbing snacks or water. Those are the ones who were not involved in the negotiations. The ones who were actively negotiating, you could tell it was a little tense between those conversations, especially as we got into like the 4 a.m., 5 a.m. hours. But so it was definitely kind of a tense situation.
Earlier on the show, we talked about the impacts of sleep deprivation. They're not really positive. So what is the method of choice in the U.S. Senate to stay awake all night?
I think part of it is that, they want to drag this out because they want to kind of force the other side to give up a little bit. So Republicans were keeping these votes open for so long, as I mentioned earlier, because they were hoping that would detract Democrats from actually bringing amendments to the floor. Democrats filed like almost 300 amendments, but we did not see that many come to the floor, as you saw. So I think part of it was tiring out your opponents. But yeah, it does seem like sleep deprivation is not the best way to make decisions.
Cammie, if you were to articulate a problem or two that's going to be the biggest problem or two when we go to the House, what would that be? Where do you think it could potentially get hung up?
I think a lot of House conservatives, especially in the Freedom Caucus, were really hoping that the Senate would find deeper spending cuts, especially when it comes to Medicaid and those green energy tax credits. The Senate essentially did the opposite in many of those areas. They kind of eased some of those medication cuts. John Curtis had a big role in easing some of those green energy tax repeals. So I think they're going to be upset that they worked really hard for a very conservative, deep cut bill that has now basically been pared back a bit.
Do you what happened with the SALT tax?
Yeah, so the SALT tax was a bit of a big negotiation heading in, but they were able to settle on a negotiation. So when actually brought over to the Senate, they agreed on extending that SALT cap for 5 years to the amount that the House negotiated, and then it would go back down to the current 10% that it is right now for the next 5 years.
That was Cammie Mondeaux, Deseret News congressional correspondent, joining us this morning talking about the passage by the Senate of the big, beautiful bill. When we come back after the break, we're going to talk about July 1st, which is today, and it's the beginning of the new fiscal year for the budget nerds here in Utah. We'll talk about what that means and where we're going when we come back.
Home sellers, do not lose money selling your home the old way. Make more money when you sell your home with a Bank Buster loan. This is Rod with the Save Right Realtor team at Realty Path. Average interest rates are in the mid to high sixes, but Save Right Realtors will market your home with a fixed rate as low as 4.75%. The ultra-low Bank Buster rate gives buyers monthly payments that are hundreds less than comparable homes. When your home is much more affordable, you get a larger pool of potential buyers who can buy your home. When buyers compare homes and see your home is hundreds less per month, you'll get a quicker offer and a higher sale price. Do not lose money selling your home the old way. Sell faster and make more money. Sell with Save Right. Sell with the Bank Buster loan. Call 801-APPROVE or visit SaveRight.com.
I am down 50 pounds in 11 weeks, and this program works. The pounds melt off. It's amazing.
I let go of 50 pounds. It felt unreal. I was so proud of myself.
Get in the best shape of your life with Soda Weight Loss.
Just 3 weeks in, and pounds are dropping off very quickly. I am down 26 pounds in 3 weeks.
Summer is right around the corner.
Your summer body starts right here because Soda's summer savings are on.
Every single day, Soda Weight Loss is helping people let go of the weight without drugs, without hunger, and the weight stays off.
I tried other things, came to Soda, just amazing.
I started on Soda 8 months ago, and I have released 80 pounds now.
Summer savings, stunning results, only at Soda Weight Loss. Get started now at SodaWeightLoss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com.
Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
Now there's a new way to take charge of your blood sugar. Introducing New Garlic Healthy Blood Sugar Formula from the makers of the nation's best-selling garlic supplement. New Garlic helps maintain healthy blood sugar levels with clinically supported levels of garlic. plus a custom blend of vitamins and minerals. And it's odor-free. Take charge of your blood sugar with new Garlic Healthy Blood Sugar Formula. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Use as directed.
Offer not valid in all states or where prohibited by law. Loans are subject to lender approval. See website for details.
Honey, the credit card bill came, and we're maxed out.
Maxed out cards, rent is due. We just need some extra cash to help us get by.
Maybe we should go to 27cash.com.
With our bad credit?
27cash.com is one of the largest personal loan networks. They can help people with any type of credit get up to $5,000, and cash can hit our bank account as soon as tomorrow.
When you need extra cash, go to 27cash.com. That's 27cash.com. 27cash.com.
When was the last time your vacation was living the art of adventure? Discover it in Cedar City, Utah. Towering red rocks, epic trails, summer events, and world-class drama at the Tony Award-winning Utah Shakespeare Festival starting June 17th with Macbeth, Antony and Cleopatra, and more. Marvel at nature's masterpieces with just a short drive to Zion, Bryce Canyon, Cedar Breaks, and Kolob Canyons. Discover Utah's earliest artists at the Parowan Gap Petroglyph site. Head up to Bryan Head for chairlift rides that deliver endless high-elevation views. Wildflower Meadows, topped off with ATV and downhill biking trails. Be starstruck by the skies at Cedar Breaks National Monument. Browse Cedar City's unique shops and indulge in savory bites. Come experience the art of adventure around every turn in Cedar City. Start planning your vacation right now at visitcedarcity.com.
If you're talking, they will hear you.
We all want our kids to grow up safe and healthy, so we show them how. And we tell them with honest conversations that let them know what we expect. Not just one time, but every chance we get. That's especially important when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. Kids not only need to know the dangers and how to avoid them, they need to hear it often from you. And when it comes to pain medications, opioids, they need to know that they should never be taken without a prescription and never shared with friends or family. It's dangerous and illegal. So talk with your kids and guide them through the challenges of growing up safe and healthy. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
So talk, they hear you. You can do it if you try.
The new Inside Sources.
Okay, so July 1st, rather than January 1st, is actually the start of a new fiscal year when it comes at least to the governmental environment. And it can be a fun time for budget nerds, right? Where you just say, hey, look, now we can start spending for the next year. I don't know. But it's a really interesting process in Utah. So one of the things that we've talked about before is that the Utah legislature actually balances their budget, but they budget for the year ahead. And so if something changes, then they've got to go back and revisit that. So when we're starting this budget on July 1st, that's what they planned for earlier in the year. But we have Billy Hesterman of the Utah Taxpayers Association on the line with us. Billy and I actually go way back. We've known each other for a really long time in Utah politics. Thanks for joining us, Billy.
Hey, Holly. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's really fun. So I want to just start by asking you, just give us an overview about the Utah budget, what we're looking at for fiscal year 2026.
Yeah, so we kick it off today. So for the next 365 days, we're on that new budget that the legislature put in place. It's $30.8 billion this year, which is incredible to me because when I think about when you and I first met, it was half that, if not even smaller. And
yeah.
So, it's amazing how much we've grown and how much more money is coming into our state. And so much of it, about 27% of it is going to public education. Another 28% is going to social services. And then another 10-ish% is in higher ed. So when you look at it from that perspective, the largest portions of the budget are going to help people either through education or through social services. That's the vast majority of how our money gets spent here in Utah.
Let me back you up a little bit, Billy. Where does the money come from? What are the primary source of our tax revenue here in Utah?
So a lot of the state budget is funded by, we say we have three taxes in Utah. We have an income, a sales, and a property. but the property tax largely funds our local governments and our school districts. And so the state government is funded from federal dollars that we get from the federal government, and then income taxes and sales taxes. And then, the various fees that you pay if you go use a state park or something like that you pay a fee for. But it's mostly income and sales.
So Billy, when I was in the legislature, and it's been 14 years, our budget that year was like just over $11 billion. So it's well over double of what it was just 14 years ago, which is kind of crazy to me, actually. But what is Utah doing well to stay fiscally responsible?
So one of the things that we are doing well is that even over that period of time, over the last 10, 15 years, we've not increased the amount of dependency we have on federal funds. It's stayed roughly about the same percentage that whole time. So while we've taken more funds, we're not taking more of our, of the pie than we traditionally have. And I think that's a really solid thing for us to do, is we know that the federal government is probably less and less dependable as they spend more money and increase the deficit. Eventually, they're not going to have any money to give to us. And so we're doing a good job of making sure to let Washington know, hey, we've got it back here. We don't need your help.
From the Utah Taxpayer Association, Billy, what could we be doing differently? What are you encouraging our legislature to do in the next year that they maybe haven't done this year?
We're always looking for them to slow growth. While we've doubled the budget, as Holly and I have talked about, we still want to make sure that we're being careful and cautious with those dollars. Is there an opportunity to give more back to the families and the businesses in the state, or are there essential services we need to fund? I think we'd all argue that the state's doing a really good job right now, and if there's an opportunity to cut taxes and cut the budget, let's look at that. Let's look at ways to stretch that dollar a little bit further.
So you bring up an interesting point about cutting taxes. So the Utah legislature has done that, 5-6 years in a row now?
Yes.
Do you from the Taxpayers Association, do you recommend that they look at continuing to cut individual taxes, or as some opponents the last couple of cycles actually have said, please put that money towards services?
So I like what they've done over these past 5-6 years, in that they've done it in small increments. We've seen other states do big, full percent tax cuts, and then they get called back into special session 8 months later and go, whoops, we didn't project right. Things went crazy. We got to take back our tax cut. And so we've just kind of chipped away at it slowly, doing little 0.05s at a time. And it's been the right route. It's been the correct thing to do. And that's what I think the legislature should do, is always have that. Can we do a little bit more this year and do it incrementally? And that's what I hope when we get to January, they'll still go, we want to keep that little bit that incremental cut on the table, because it adds up. When you look at it over the last 5 years, it adds up to being over $1 billion in tax cuts, even though each year it feels a little bit smaller.
Billy, talk to our listeners about what you do. What is the Utah Taxpayer Association? I mean, the title's maybe self-defining, but what is it that you do? And also talk to us about your interaction and relationship with the legislature.
Sure. So we were started in 1923. So we're an old dog, I guess, in the business of Utah politics. And we are an organization that's representing taxpayers to government. So we work with the cities, the counties, the school districts, and the state legislature to show up to public meetings and say, hey, we think maybe you've gone too far and you're spending more than you need to. Or we come and, help a city if they invite us in early to help craft a budget so that they go, wow, this is really great. We've done it the right way. And we help them see areas where they can cut or where they can save money for the taxpayer. And then at the Capitol, we really look to help pass sound tax policy bills, make sure that things are fair and equal, that everyone's treated in a correct way, and that we're not picking winners and losers with the tax bills that are considered.
I think one of the things that I know the Taxpayers Association for the best is like your pre-legislative session conference, looking at don't you have you bring in legislators, but you talk about tax bills that might be coming up during the legislative session. Is that right?
Right. So education's a big part of it too, that we do our conferences. We'll have one before the session that we get usually a great attendance from the legislature, the governor, different tax commissioners, and it is just a chance for all of us to get together and hear what are the tax bills that are going to be coming up in that next session. And then we do one post session to kind of revamp reevaluate what happened, and then talk about what we should address throughout the year. And then we also put together various reports throughout the year, just like we did with our state budget report that we released today. That you can get at utahtaxpayers.org. And we try to open the perspective of the taxpayer on what they're getting from their government.
Let me ask you a question. We've been talking today and watching nationally, the Senate has passed at least their version of the One Big Beautiful Bill. What can you tell our listeners about that from your perspective? The national, this big bill that's just passed.
Right. So it's positive in one side that it's making those Trump tax cuts that we got in 2017 permanent. I should call it the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act from 2017, and that those now are going to be a permanent thing and not be expired at the end of the year. So that's one benefit to the taxpayer. What's a concerning part to it, though, is still how much spending is included in that bill, and that it is increasing the national debt so much more. I think the number I saw was increasing it by almost $3 trillion over 10 years.
Yeah.
And there's a point where we have to say we've got to start cutting government services or cutting back our spending in Washington, or else we are going to be facing major problems down the road that our children and our grandchildren are going to have to be dealing with. And we owe it to them to start righting the ship.
I think Elon Musk agrees with you.
I think I'm in good company with him.
He's been really vocal about the deficit, and not only that, bill also increases the debt limit, right? It's like I have to go to my bank and say, can I have an increase in my credit limit? They just write their own, right? And they increased it by $5 trillion in the Senate version. But Elon Musk posted just yesterday that every member of Congress who campaigned on reducing government spending and then voted for this biggest debt increase will lose their primary. If it's the last thing I do on this earth, he said.
Well, and that's what we do need. We need a change in the culture in Washington where we're not just spend, but that we have true budget hawks that are looking for ways to save money, to say, you know what, we got to cut back to what's essential and not the nice to haves.
Billy Hesserman, thanks for joining us this morning. When we come back after the break, we're going to talk about a story that you and I have been following a little bit, and it involves this thing we call the Uinta Triangle. It's the Bermuda Triangle, but it's right here in Utah. The gripping story of Eric Robinson's disappearance there, and KSL's own Dave Cowley's documentary podcast. Stay with us.
11:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Claire Scott. KSL's top story this hour. More than 90% of the state is now in a drought, and forecasters say conditions will likely keep getting worse as the summer progresses. National Weather Service meteorologist Alex DeSmet says a good monsoon season could help reverse some of the drought conditions, but not by much.
If we have weeks upon weeks and months upon months of above normal rainfall, that will improve the drought, but periods of scattered thunderstorms are not likely to give us much reprieve.
DeSmet says we likely won't see major relief until the winter. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The Senate has passed President Trump's sweeping tax and budget bill. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer says the cuts to Medicaid, food assistance programs, and clean energy initiatives will have the most impact.
When people start losing their Medicaid, when they start losing their jobs, when their electric bills go up, when their premiums go up, when kids and parents lose SNAP funding, the people of America will remember this vote.
The vote was 50-50, with Vice President Vance breaking the tie. The Senate version of the bill will now go back to the House for final passage. Your money at this moment: the Dow is up 441 points. The S&P is down 2 points. And coming up, clouds roll in this afternoon. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time, 11:31.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
I am not a rich woman, but I feel like a rich woman every time I go in my closet. The best, hands down, present I've ever received was my husband secretly redid my closet with Closets by Design. So now when I go in there aren't all these shoes just junked on the floor. They're neatly sitting on their shelves. And my necklaces are hanging on their individual hooks, and earrings are in their little squares in this soft drawer that pulls out. It's just gorgeous. In fact, he saw how much I loved it. He had Closets by Design redo the garage. So now all the stuff, the tools, the toys, the junk is all in cabinets. When you open our garage door, you see cars. That's it. It's amazing. The things that Closets by Design can do, and it's going to save you money right now because you get up to 40% off plus an additional 15% off with 18-month financing. You can do so much with your closet, much more than you realize, with this wonderful Utah company, Closets by Design. Find out more at 1-800-BY-DESIGN or closetsbydesign.com.
At Trio Senior Living, older adults aren't slowing down. They're just getting started. The Prime Fit Wellness Program expands wellness beyond the gym into every aspect of community life. Whatever your goals, the team at Trio Senior Living has got your back, so you can put your best foot forward. Call 801-475-4004 today to schedule your personal visit.
Tim Hughes back again with Greg and Mike at Replenish Landscape Garden Products. It's that time of year when you're looking to make a change in your landscaping, and maybe you're tired of some of those areas that you just end up pulling a lot of weeds out of this time of year. Greg, you've got a lot of answers for that in the form of rocks and bark and so many other things.
That's right. We carry 22 different varieties in our bins here, and they're available to be picked up, or we can deliver them to you.
Mike, there's a reason why professional landscapers and even school districts and others use your products.
Yeah, it's a great proven material. We get a lot of school districts and municipalities that use it as well, and landscapers.
You still have those playground chips too?
We do.
You're going to find it all right here in Murray at 4660 South, 200 West. And remember, you can drive right in and pick it up yourself or have it delivered right to your home. Call them at 801-262-5142 or go online at replenishcompost.com. Remember, Replenish. It's good stuff.
This is Joe Cordell of Cordell & Cordell. Cordell & Cordell is the largest family law firm in the country, with over 35 years of helping clients navigate divorce. That does give us certain advantages, for example, in experience and resources. But being big doesn't mean less personal or less local. Our attorneys live and work in your community, and as neighbors, they understand the challenges your families face. If you're a guy facing divorce, remember, Cordell & Cordell, a partner you can count on. Visit CordellCordell.com to schedule your consultation.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here's Ricky Meeks.
The ramp is now open. The crash has pretty much been cleaned up out of the way from eastbound SR 201 to get to I-215's West Belt. We have had a little bit of slower speed southbound I-15 in Clearfield. That's due to road work restricting that right lane of travel. Jordan Valley Water says we're using about 12% more water than last year, even though we don't need to. Let's fix that. Water one day less each week. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
A high of 99 today with clouds moving in this afternoon. Tomorrow we'll see isolated thunderstorms in the afternoon. Temperatures fall Thursday to 89 degrees. Right now it is 95 and partly cloudy. I'm Claire Scott from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
So I actually really love to listen to podcasts, and there are way more podcasts than I have time for. And so I had actually missed out on the Uinta Triangle podcast until we had Dave Colley on last week to tell us about it. So I'm happy to tell you, Dave, that I started last week after we ended our show, and I am completely caught up with all 8 episodes that have been released and all the bonus episodes. Woohoo!
That is an amazing binge. I am so impressed and flattered. But
but it's a compelling story. You can now.
It is so gripping. So yeah, I can testify to how gripping it is, and I've been able to share that with some people on social media too, who've told me they listened as they were crossing the country. Look, you're an excellent storyteller. It's just so. It was so easy to just get pulled into this story of Eric Robinson, who disappeared in 2011 up in the High Uintas.
Yeah, and the story kind of fell into my lap many years ago, and it just built and built over time. And as we were talking during the break, I was telling you, Holly, I had the opportunity to meet Eric Robinson's wife, Marilyn Koolstra, several years ago, and was so blown away by her resilience and just her emotional intelligence, and speaking about her experience going through this, and had this just kind of itch that I needed to tell Eric's story and her story in a way, that we just can't do.
Yeah.
I love radio.
Yeah.
I love live radio, but this podcast format just allows us to take a little more time, dig a little deeper into some of those details.
Well, you're nine hours, right, of podcasting, and we're doing 9-minute segments, right? There's no way to tell that kind of story in this kind of format.
It's really difficult. I mean, I lived on KSL News Radio for a lot of years, and I've been doing the podcast thing now with the Cold Podcast, and now You Win a Triangle for a while, and I will never not love coming in here to the studio and talking to you guys live.
So, Dave, reset it for our listeners, who Eric Robinson was and what drew you to him.
Okay, so Eric Robinson, he's this 64-year-old man from Australia. He lives to hike. He wants to do long trails, and he is not afraid to go out by himself. So he's a solo trekker. He travels the world. He's in Scotland, Patagonia. He's in Nepal. And his wife, Marilyn, they meet later in life. It's a second marriage for both of them, and they really bond over this love of hiking as well. In 2011, Eric has this idea. He wants to come to Utah. He's going to hike the Uinta Highline Trail, and none of his friends are really available to do it with him. So he sets out on his own. He has a planned pickup at the end of that trail, and he doesn't show up. And so, we covered this in the news as it happened. There was a search and rescue mission. People were looking for Eric, couldn't find him. And then, last week in episode 7, we talked about this reveal. 5 years later, a family out camping in the Uinta Mountains finds skeletal remains. It's Eric Robinson, but he's not where he was thought to be. And so that raised this question of, well, how did he get there? Like, why is he here of all places? And that's where we go in episode 8, is really digging into that question.
And you personally did this trail.
Yeah. So
you re-established his steps.
So I'm going to get nerdy on you here, Greg, for just a minute. When Eric Robinson's remains were recovered, his camera was found. And without going too big into the details, the camera ends up with his wife, Marilyn. Now, Marilyn's from Australia. She doesn't know the High Uintas.
Right.
And I reach out to her at one point and I say, hey, I don't know what those photos show. I have no idea what's on this camera. But if you would share those with me, my job as an investigative reporter, I'll go figure out where they were all taken. We'll do our homework and use those to figure out the story, right? Eric's alone. He didn't keep a journal, but he did take these photos, and they will tell us something about his journey. And so in episode 8, out this morning, we now present day by day. Here's where Eric was. Here were the things he was encountering, some of the surprises that led him to, unfortunately, his fatal end in the Uintas.
So you were able to, she provided you the photographs.
She did, yeah. In fact, we've published, part of the agreement here was, look, this is journalism. So I'm going to take those photographs, I'm going to publish them. And when I went out and did this walk, trying to figure out where they were all taken, I re-photographed. So standing in the exact same spot where Eric took with his camera, I'm pointing my camera in the same direction, and we're putting those up one-to-one on the website. You went to Triangle.
And what was he taking in? What could you say about his photography? What was he trying to capture?
What really stood out to me about Eric's photography was he very rarely left the trail. Most of the time it was, he was on a walk, he might have stopped to have a drink or a snack, and he would pull the camera out, and he would maybe take, a shot 2 or 3 directions. If he got to a high point crossing one of the passes, he would pull the camera out, he would take photos. But what we know is 2011 was a big snow year. And so if you compare his photos to mine, one of the things that stands out is, wow, there's a lot of snow in some of the high country in that season.
In his photos.
Drastically different than what most of us who, hike the Uintas experience.
So one of the things that was interesting to me that stood out is you being able to use metadata, right? You're not just matching what you can see with your eyeballs, right? But there's actually metadata because he was using a digital camera at the time.
Yeah. And the funny thing about that, Holly, is when, we also did public records work to get case records. So when those records come in, the Summit County Sheriff's Office, the state medical examiner, they say, well, the metadata shows the last photo was taken on August 5th. And I get these images and I look at them and I say, well, wait a minute, the time of day is wrong because he's from Australia.
Mm-hmm.
His camera is 16 hours off Utah time. You've got to do the math, and it moves everything back by
a day.
Right? But because of that, if we know where the photo was taken and the time it was taken, we can do things like calculate how fast he was moving between those 2 points, and use that to fill in those gaps in the story.
I don't want to spoil anything or have you spoil anything, but did you come to a conclusion as to why he had diverted from the main trail?
Mhm.
Was there something that explained that?
You have to listen to the podcast.
Okay. Maybe it's a yes or no question.
I think it's fair to talk about it a little bit. Look, and I apologize for anybody who hasn't listened if it is spoilery, but we're coming up on a holiday weekend, so binge and catch up if you would like.
That's right.
I spend a lot of time building the story, talking about Eric's experience prior to coming to Utah, because how he thought about risk in the mountains is important to understand. He had a friend who died falling from a glacier. Earlier in his trek, he had to divert around a high-angle snowfield on one of these passes, and did so in a way that would scare me. And so, I think he'd had some of these experiences that are influencing how he's thinking about what are you going to do if you run into steep snow.
Mm-hmm.
He gets to this place in the trail. It's really the crux of the story, called Dead Horse Pass. And Dead Horse Pass, we see from his photos, it's covered with snow. It's this steep, rocky slope with cliffs on it. And, I'm not in his head, but if I were standing where he was looking at that same scene, I would think, I don't want to go up that. That does not look safe.
Yeah.
And that's the moment where we know he leaves the trail and heads to where he ultimately lost his life.
So you mentioned in the podcast, but just now as well, he was not a climber, he was a hiker, right? Or a walker?
Yeah, it's funny. We all have, different countries have different words for it. I say backpacker, Australians would say trucker, New Zealanders call it tramping, whatever. He's doing multi-day hikes carrying his gear on his back.
Yeah.
But he is not somebody who's out there, setting ropes. Right?
Mhm.
That's not his experience or his skill level. And so when he ends up off the trail in this very dynamic environment in the high Uintas, he's dealing with mountaineering, right?
Mhm.
He's having to go up and down cliffs and figure, his way through this pass. And, unfortunately, we don't know. We weren't there in that final moment with him to know what it was that sent him off the edge. But there is a pretty big reveal that comes at the end of episode 8 today. This is what I won't spoil.
Okay, yeah. Don't,
I'm
listening to it this weekend.
Is a discovery that was not disclosed when his remains were found that came out of this reporting project. So, and it kind of recontextualizes the whole thing.
So we've been, thanks for joining us, Dave. We've been talking about Uinta Triangle, my new favorite podcast, and it only has one more episode. I'm so sad. But today is also the birthday of a Utah State Senator who is beloved in her native Wales. And it's also International Joke Day. So we want you to text us your favorite dad joke at 57500, and we'll be right back.
Do you know how to tell if a clogged drain is something to worry about or not? What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and I understand it's annoying and inconvenient, but sometimes a clogged drain can be a sign there's a more serious issue with your sewer main line. If the drains in the lowest level of your home aren't draining, or you flush a toilet and it comes up somewhere else like a shower or a floor drain, I'm urging you to look at this as more than just an annoyance. The last thing I want you to experience is a sewer backup. If you're a homeowner experiencing any of these issues, the first step would be to snake the line to see if it's just a blockage, which one of our drain techs can do for only $29. Yep, you heard that right. Any Hour Services will snake any drain line with normal access for only $29. Sinks, showers, tubs, toilets, floor drains, laundry drains, even that sewer main line that connects to the city. We'll snake any line for just $29. For help with your drain issues, call Any Hour Services at 801-443-7700. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Staples presents That Was Easy.
So I was taking my side hustle full-time.
Bold move, my friend.
And I needed to find everything in one stop.
Like finding Bigfoot riding a unicorn.
Yes, so I hit the Staples Easy button. Staples had everything for a new office and print services for signs and brochures. Plus, Cindy, the Staples associate, helped me find the best tech for me.
Wait, no drama?
No, Staples made it easy.
For the products, services, and experts your business needs. Staples.
That was easy.
In-store, online, and on the app.
When you're hiring, have you ever felt like you're missing out on meeting great candidates? Well, they're not hard to find when you go to ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day. People who are actively looking for jobs like yours. So it's easy to find the right person fast. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. Alsco Uniforms has played a key role in establishing many of the industry standards followed today. Since 1889, the company has delivered high-quality linen and uniform services with a focus on reliability, innovation, and customer care. General Manager Craig Beals joins us with more.
Utah is growing fast, and with that growth comes the need for a reliable supplier who will keep your business running smoothly. That's where Alsco Uniforms comes in. For over 135 years, Alsco Uniforms has been Utah's trusted laundry service, quietly supporting businesses across the state. From restaurants in Ogden to hospitals in Salt Lake and auto shops in St. George, we deliver more than just uniforms. Alsco Uniforms provides hygienically clean linens, crisp uniforms, floor mats, mops, restroom supplies, and first aid kits, so business owners can focus on what they do best. We even serve some of Utah's most notable venues, like the Delta Center, home of Real, Salt Lake, and Royals America First Field, and the new Bee Stadium in Daybreak. Even if you haven't heard of Alsco Uniforms, you've likely used our products while visiting a Utah business. This fifth-generation, family-owned company remains a reliable, consistent local partner to thousands of Utah businesses.
Alsco Uniforms goes beyond just uniforms and linens. They're dedicated to delivering exceptional customer service and helping businesses thrive throughout Utah. To learn more about their services and story, visit alsco.com. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
Hi, it's Tori DeVito. In every family, small conversations can make a big impact. I grew up on tour with my parents. Kind of different, but we bonded over music just like other families do over sports, camping, or other interests. And we talked. Little everyday conversations from silly to serious that built a foundation over time. Honest conversations, like when my dad shared his experiences as an alcoholic.
Your honesty about that part of your life gave me a sense of integrity that I wanted to uphold in my own life. And I was so grateful that you and Mom had become these sober, stable people who were always there for me.
I wanted you to know from someone who's been in recovery more than 30 years now that hard work is what creates success, not alcohol or other drugs, whether it's music or anything else. I said it a lot, and I'm glad you took it to heart.
Talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Inside Sources.
So today is International Joke Day, and we are asking you to text us your favorite dad joke at 57500. We've already got some coming in, so super fun. But we're going to start first with what just happened at the Utah Capitol. In fact, I think they probably wrapped up relatively recently, and that's the America 250 celebration that just kicked off.
Yeah, so tell us what America 250 is.
So it is a year-long celebration because next year will be 250 years from 1776 when they signed the Declaration of Independence. So it's nationwide.
I remember 1976.
I
America
do
200. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, it's been 50 years. I had never thought about that.
I was a preteen in Colorado, and I remember from 1976, the thing that I remember the most is that they had a firework go astray and set off the entire thing in one gigantic, basically, boom right there in Colorado. So.
I was in my first year of college. I was focusing on too much to think about the 200-year anniversary of our country.
Yeah. Anyway, so they just kicked that off at the Utah Capitol. Marie Osmond was there and sang. The Lieutenant Governor spoke. There's all kinds of people dressed up in patriotic costumes, and and things. And we'll be seeing stuff all year from the state of Utah and nationally as well.
So what do you think the state of Utah is going to do?
I actually don't know.
Oh, okay. I mean, yeah, it's a big year.
I'm sure they're going to do parades. I'm sure they're going to be, there'll be a variety of activities throughout the year. And I actually lucky enough to be able to trace some heritage to the American Daughters of the American Revolution. So I have ancestors who served in that war and came across on the Mayflower. I also have some that are relatively new immigrants, and so we get to go lots of fun places. But I'm looking forward to it. It'll be fun.
Well, talk to us about the state senator you mentioned at the last break.
All right. So Martha Hughes Cannon is the state senator who was born on July 1st, and that was 168 years ago. So not recently. So she was born in Wales, and Wales is very, very proud of their native daughter. And in December 11th, 2024, her statue was actually unveiled in Statuary Hall back in the U.S. Capitol. So every state gets to send two people back or representations of two people from their state. And so we have Brigham Young back there, and she replaced Philo T. Farnsworth, and she's now standing in the Visitor Center as one of the two statues for Utah. So Martha Hughes Cannon became a doctor back in basically the early days of the state of Utah, and she was quite young. By the time she was 25, she had like 4 degrees, and she came back to Utah. She ran Deseret Hospital for a little while. She married Angus Cannon, who already had 3 wives, and she was his 4th. And this was during the time where polygamy was really starting to be prosecuted and persecuted. And so she went underground a couple of times, but she was always really outspoken about women's suffrage and wanting to have women have the right to vote. She was really active in that movement. And when Utah got statehood, so Utah had suffrage for women when they were a territory, then it was removed with the Edmunds-Tucker Act, and then it came back when Utah became a state. Well, when they had their first election, she ran on a slate of Democratic candidates. Her husband was on a slate of Republican candidates, and she won.
Oh, no. Really?
She did. And she became the first female state senator anywhere in the United States.
Interesting. Martha Hughes Cannon.
Dr. Senator Martha Hughes Cannon. Her birthday is today.
Larger than life. Okay, well, what is today?
Today's International Joke Day, so I'm going to tell you one of my favorite dad jokes. And actually, my husband told me this one, and I thought it was so funny.
So why did we pivot to dad jokes?
Oh, well.
You just thought that would be an interesting tweak on
I want to
joke
make
day?
sure they're clean, right? So
Okay,
dad jokes are clean. But in Utah Policy, in the newsletter every day, I do a fun fact of the day, and that's International Joke Day. But I also include a pun or a joke at the bottom of the newsletter, and it's just funny. And my kids roll their eyes. That's how you know it's a good joke, right? If they roll their eyes. So here's my joke.
Go ahead.
What do vegan zombies eat?
I don't know.
Grains.
Oh, good heavens. Okay. So I need to go. So I texted my grandkids before we started. We have a lot of interesting jokes from our listeners too, who are very, very good taste. But my granddaughter sends me this. It's a 4-part joke, so you got to play along here. What do you call a cow with 3 legs?
I don't know.
Tri-tip. What do you call with 2 legs? A cow with 2 legs.
I don't know.
Lean beef. What do you call a cow with no legs?
That's got to be hamburger.
Ground beef. And what do you call a deer with no eyes?
I don't know.
No idea.
Okay. All right. There's another zombie joke that somebody sent in, one of our listeners. My zombie friend missed breakfast, so I gave him a piece of my mind.
There you go. And there's a lot of animal jokes today. My grandkids sent me the cow jokes, but we have some dog jokes. If a cat gets 9 lives, what does a dog get?
A new leash on life.
A new leash on life. I was playing Frisbee with my dog the other day. I need to get a flatter dog.
That's funny.
I don't know if I get that one.
Yeah,
Okay.
Playing Frisbee, like throwing the dog. That's the joke.
I was playing Frisbee. Oh, that's sad. Okay, that's a better joke than I thought.
Okay. Did you hear about the man that went to the emergency room after drinking a bottle of invisible ink?
No.
He is still there waiting to be seen.
Okay, these jokes are getting really bad. Here,
they're good. They're
this
good.
is one that I like. I like a lot. Did you hear about the guy who got addicted to hokey pokey?
Nope.
Well, he turned himself around.
Ha, 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 ha.
That's what it's all about, isn't it? They just keep coming hard and fast. But I don't. We haven't had any dad jokes yet, have we?
Oh, these are all dad jokes.
Okay, they're all dad. Okay, good.
Dad jokes are the ones that make your kids roll their eyes.
Right.
That's what a dad joke.
Okay,
It's not a
yes,
joke
of
about a
course.
dad.
They're jokes. Oh yeah, my dad was like awful with those.
Oh, you're so funny. Okay,
Yes.
so here's one. Smoking kills you, bacon kills you. But what happens when you smoke bacon?
I don't know.
It cures you.
There you go. There you go. What color is the wind?
Blue.
Blue. That's a good one. No, that's the kind of stuff my dad would tell. So I understand dad jokes now. I was thinking it's a joke about your dad.
Oh, you're so
But it's
funny.
the kind of jokes that your dad tells that everyone just goes,
Yeah.
when you're done with
Yeah.
it.
So I have another one. I used to tell this to the Cub Scouts when I was a Cub Scout leader. Where does the general keep his armies?
I don't know.
In his sleeveys.
Okay.
We like bad jokes.
This is my granddaughter's favorite joke. I have to tell it. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Boo.
Boo-hoo.
Why are you crying? She calls me every week and tells me that exact same joke, and then she laughs and laughs because I fall for it every time, of course. But knock knock jokes are always some of the best.
They are. They really are. They're really funny. So I follow some jokes online, and they're not always clean, so you got to be careful sometimes. But there's all kinds of kid jokes, right? Where they love bathroom humor. Those were not my favorite.
know,
but
I
when
know.
I had 8-year-olds, they just I thought it was a boy thing. No, it was boys and girls. They just were indiscriminate in
Right,
their
right.
bathroom jokes. So, okay.
You're gonna tell one?
Not that kind.
Okay, good. I was gonna
Okay.
say everything. The bathroom is a joke just because it's a bathroom.
All right. I was abducted by aliens. They made me wash my hands, clean my room, and eat my vegetables. It turns out I was on the mothership.
Oh, that's a good one.
Okay, I've got another one. Did you hear about the sensitive burglar?
No.
He takes things personally.
Oh my gosh. How about this one? I'm afraid for the calendar.
Oh, why is that?
Its days are numbered.
Oh, gosh. We're so sappy, right? Okay, let's see.
What do cows do on Friday nights?
I dance under the light of the moon.
They go to the movies.
Okay. Why do nurses always carry red pens?
I got to figure this one out. I don't know.
So they can draw blood.
Okay. This is where these dad jokes, and my dad passed away, but now I'm thinking about him because these are all jokes he would have just died for and just wanted to tell us.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, one more.
Okay.
Do you want a brief explanation of what an acorn is?
Sure.
In a nutshell, it's an oak tree. Okay.
Bada bing.
Yeah.
There we go.
Right. They're fun. So sign up for the Utah Policy newsletter. It's utahpolicy.com. Just put your email address in, and you can get news stories and these fun jokes of the day.
And when KSL News Radio comes back, a new vision is coming into focus for Salt Lake City's Ballpark neighborhood. The details up next with Midday with Maria Chaleos. Stay with us.
A new vision is coming into focus for Salt Lake City's Ballpark neighborhood, centered around community, housing, and the next chapter after baseball. KSL News Radio's Eric Cabrera